Welcome into the SMITE Pro League here on Friday. It's the end of the week, which means that we've got one last day of really cool SPL matches coming your way, but all that is just in a moment. Hi-Res Expo remains right around the corner, a little bit less than a month out at this point, November 15th to the 17th. You do not want to miss out on this event. If it's possible for you to make it, then you should make it. Go to highresexpo.com, pick up your tickets, and make sure that we're all seeing you there. Again, my name is Finch. I'm joined here on the desk by Zeros. And Zeros, as I said, we've got some pretty good sets that are going to be starting up today. Yep. I mean, yesterday we had some exciting sets too, right? So I expect these to be pretty good.
Yeah, yesterday was more excited than I thought it would be, honestly. So hopefully that's the case today as well.
Yeah, I'm hoping so too. Obey able to take Rival to 5 games. Also, LG, even with playing with a sub yesterday, were able to make that third game very, very competitive as well up against Splyce. So I do think that right now we're seeing that there's just a good deal of parity in the SPL overall. Here's that schedule. We already talked about those 2 games from yesterday, but today we'll have Splyce going up against Obey. That'll be the first game, and then E United up against Renegades. And this is a big set down there for them. E United had some struggles when we saw them last. They didn't quite look prepared. So now it's time for them against possibly the hottest team in the league right now to come out and show their stuff.
To be fair, Renegades did absolutely not look at the hottest team in the league either. Their last set. So both of those teams, which is supposedly should be really good, right?
Yep.
But like both of them had pretty poor performances last week, so it's really going to be interesting to see if they step it up this week.
Which one of those teams kind of bounces back first is going to be critical. The reason why that's so important is because of this path to the World Championship. We're in that phase all the way over there on the left, the regular SPL phase, but the placement week looms November 3rd through the 8th, where the bottom 4 SPL teams will be joined by 4 teams from the minor league, as well as 4 teams from the console league. They'll play against each other, and 2 will join that bracket with everyone else. And of course, that's all leading up to the World Championship, the 15th through the 17th. And the reason why that's important is because of the standings that we have here now. The top 6 are already decided, but where they are within that top 6 can certainly still shift around. Rival at this point does have that top seed locked up, but I believe everything else can still shift around here at this point, Zero. So it's a difference between facing other top-end SPL teams or maybe even facing an SML team. That seeding and stuff is going to matter.
Yeah, for sure. We talked about that quite a bit though, and like I don't know how much it matters because, as I said, at MSI the SML teams actually look really good. So, and I mean, the bottom SPL teams have been looking really good as of late as well. So, like, I don't think the standings matter too much here.
That's a good point. I mean, you could very well end up playing a team like LG or SK, who are very likely to get hot coming off a big placement week as well. So, even if you do improve your standings, don't expect the path to get that much easier. But this set they're moving into now, this is going to be Splyce going up against Obey, and we'll talk about Splyce here first. Specifically, man, Aror is just continually one of the most fun players to watch, I feel like, in the SPL. He's electric in that early game with the Hercules pick in particular. But even if you take that away from him, he'll flex over to the Horus, and then he could be a big playmaker throughout the entirety of that game too. I feel like he changes so much of how you have to draft against Splyce and play against Splyce because he gives him so much pressure.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I feel like Hercules against Splyce is a must-ban for pretty much every team. Like, look at it. He's just mechanically on this god. Like, even you don't have to have perfect mechanics on Hercules. You can make him work anyway. He's still really strong. Just the fact how good he is at level 1. But like when you look at that, for example, like
that's such a crazy pull.
Yeah, he pre-pulls the Amy out. Like, he's just too good at his character, and he buys so much room for Splyce in the early game. I feel like this is a must-ban against Splyce every time.
I agree. Even though his next picks up, he will comfortably come down to something like the Horus or even the Kukulkan, and those will still be really strong. I do think that his Horus is just so game-changing in how you have to, or not his Horus, but his Hercules, is so game-changing in the way that you have to play around it and how much pressure it buys them in the early game. I mean, we talked about it during their set yesterday. It felt almost like Scream was a non-factor in games 1 and 2 because he didn't really have to do much.
Yeah, that's the thing. When Aror's on Hercules, like no one else. I mean, obviously they have to do stuff, but like it's so easy for them because they have so much room to do whatever they want. Because like he's just in the jungle, pressuring the enemy jungle and support and mid laner, actually everyone probably.
Sure.
So like, he just buys so much room. It makes it so easy for the rest of his team to play, and obviously the rest of the team is really good too, right? Like very skilled players. So yeah.
Is there ever a chance that when you go into a match like this that your team kind of wants to prove you can beat their big pick, like the Hercules, or do you just got to get that out of there?
Just get it out. Like I think yesterday was a perfect proof of it. Yeah. They just roll over the first 2 games, and then like they banned the Hercules the 3rd game, and LG actually looked really good in that 3rd game. It was close, and they even played with a sub, and they still got Splyce to like super late games. So I think this Herc does so much for Splyce, and it just has to go.
I find myself agreeing. Their opponents across the way are Obey, and specifically I want to hone in on Moswal. I'm going to give you a little bit of the information here about what happened in their set yesterday, because I think that where they prioritize Moswal's pick is going to be huge here, Zeros. They bottom picked Thoth for him in Game 1, third picked Merlin for Game 2, and that's the highest pick they gave him the whole set. From then on, it was fourth picking either the Hera or the Sheepalanke for Moswal. After that, he never got to see the Thoth or Merlin again, and only one pick in those top 3. Is that common to wait that long on the mage picks? Do you think they should bring Moswal's picks up a little bit, or just sort of what were your thoughts on the tools they gave him?
I mean, it depends what drafts you're looking to go for as a team. But when you have a player like Moswal, which is obviously their mid-late game carry, like always performing so well when he gets to the mid-late game on these characters, mainly Merlin and Thoth, right? So like yesterday, I think it was a big mistake for them because they had the chance to pick Thoth all last 3 games where they lost. And they didn't. For some reason, they prioritized other picks. Like, I think it's fine prioritizing other picks, but the other picks has to do a lot of work then. They have to compete with what Moswal can do on the Thoth, and they absolutely did not. So, yeah, they should definitely prioritize Moswal's picks in top 3, in my opinion.
And part of it is that it did seem as though they had to get a pick for Mineral really early oftentimes. They got Athena twice in those last 2 games in those top picks. They got a Jing in their top picks. I mean, in Game 5, I totally understand. They went Athena, Serket, and Set. If those 3 picks are up, you probably do want to grab those. I understand. But in some of these other games, I think maybe you got to do some work to try and get Moswal something a little bit earlier on in the draft.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Splyce know that. They're going to be pressuring Moswal out with those picks. They're not going to make it easy.
Yeah, it's perfect for Splyce to be first pick, because first pick you can do more target ban. Like top first ban here, really good. I'm pretty sure we'll see a Merlin ban as well.
I think if I was Splyce, that's what I would want to do. I mean, Moswal certainly is still a strong player on those other picks, but much like Hercules steps Aror's game up to even yet another level, I think the same thing is true for Moswal when he's able to get into those comfort picks like the Merlin and the Thoth. So Splyce do ban away the Thoth right away, as well as the Serket. That's another pick Mineral likes, and the Thor.
They didn't ban Merlin, but they're definitely gonna first pick Merlin.
Right, I would think so.
Venenu, really good Merlin player too, right? So they get Merlin for him, and they also take it away from Moswal. So.
Alma's still up. Maybe they have to give that away, but instead they take this Merlin for Venenu, just like you were saying. Even with something as valuable as the Amaterasu, you think this is the play you have to make.
Probably, just because it's Moswal, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to give... if I was playing against Obey right now, I would let's not give Moswal, Thoth, or Merlin. He's been performing so well. Like, he's been like in a position to carry every game he played those characters. Just get him away from him.
And in Game 1, Obey was actually really behind. I would say they were behind in 4 of the 5 games from that set. It really was that Moswal kind of reached into the depths and pulled them back out with that Thoth on base defense back in Game number 1. So that's how game-changing it could be. Obey chooses to go with the Amaterasu and the Olorun here. Ama obviously makes sense. Olorun is strong, but does that feel a little bit more like Moswal or Wowy to you, that Olorun pick?
I think Moswal has been playing it. I'm not sure if Wowy has ever played Olorun in SPL. He probably has, but I don't remember it at least. But I've seen him play a lot of Olorun in ranked when I've been up against him. He's been performing really well on that, so I think the Olorun could go both ways. I always prefer to see Olorun in the long lane though.
I think so too, so there's a chance we'll either see it in Wowy's hands, or maybe even they'll put Moswal over there, but they haven't done that very often. Athena comes through again. They have been really prioritizing this pick. I'm no surprise to see that over there for Obey, but this could be scary. Not only does Splyce have Merlin and Venenu, but SoloOrTroll it just is tier almost to me, and how much he loves to play this god. And you add in the set, just a really strong pick in its own, and that must be going into the jungle for Scream. This is potentially scary.
Could be something like Splyce. I guess they're still fighting for seeding, and maybe they want to go up, or maybe they don't care. So like this could also be maybe CycloneSpin played set like back in like the old days when he was playing solo lane. He would play assassins all the time and get pentakills on Kwong and like that kind of stuff. So you never know. Maybe he's trying to go back to like that kind of playstyle. So it might be Cyclone in the set, but I would assume it's Scream.
No, I mean that is a good point. Scream has refused to play meta picks so far. So I mean maybe he won't be playing the set. He really does seem to like to play his own picks. As Obey pick up the Mercury for themselves here on the 4th side. That will very likely be in the hands of Weaken, giving them a pretty decent late game now. The Olorun, the Mercury, the Athena to set up. They're going to be scary past 30 minutes.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I talk about objective damage a lot, right? How important that is. Because like, if you have a comp that kills objective really fast, like sometimes all you need is one pick in like at any point of the game, and you just go to Fire Guide or you go to Golf and you just blow it up super fast. And Obey can definitely do that with the comp they've been drafting so far.
Splyce pick up the Cerberus. We haven't seen much of him this season, but I think we actually did see a pick very recently from him. So maybe, yesterday. So maybe Cerberus is coming back a little bit. Well, Dingodile playing him, and now we're seeing him here for Splyce as well. Plus the Bastet. That is much more of a Scream pick. Yeah. So I think you had the right call. This set is actually very likely going to be for CycloneSpin in the long lane, and that's Jing or Olorun. Very likely Jing that's going to be lining up against this set, with Olorun now looking like the mid pick for Moswal. How do you think that this set Jing matchup, if that is the matchup's going to go?
I mean, I think Set definitely wins that matchup, but then again, it's Jing so she can get poked out, just fly back with her passive to lane, and she probably won't lose too much unless she ends up getting killed, but I think she should be able to survive. So it should be fine for Jing, I think.
I think so too. This is a pretty good pick to put in this lane, where obviously the set's going to want even more than pressure. It's going to want kills, and Jing pretty safe, should be able to avoid it. But looking at a lot of these value picks over here for Obey, they were really hot in the first 2 games yesterday, and they've got a really good draft here. Which way are you leaning just based on the drafts?
I think the draft I'm leaning towards Obey, but I still think Splyce will take it.
Splyce, the favorites coming into this match, undoubtedly, but Obey with a very strong draft here in their own right. And Splyce, like you were saying, is there any chance that they're holding things kind of close to the vest? This kind of feels like a draft where maybe they wouldn't be revealing too much about their eventual Worlds plans.
They're definitely revealing stuff, because I don't think we've seen Splyce play Serb or Set ADC in a long time, so we'll see.
Maybe they are giving a little bit away here of the set against Obey. Let's get it down to Aggro and Anatole.
Thank you, Finch and Zeros. That's right, Aggro and Toli here on the cast for Splyce versus Obey Alliance. Splyce, an important game for them, Toli. I mean, they want to get as close to securing second seed as they can. Ooh. I don't know if you're coming through quite yet, Toli, but we'll get you coming in soon enough. Venenu going with his patented Boots to Lost Artifact start, as we've seen him do in the past. Toli, you were saying about Splyce.
Yes, so as I was saying, Aggro, that before I was so rudely interrupted, can we get some real love for the story of the year? SoloOrTroll.
Yeah, that's
playing tier in the solo lane, right? He comes from the minor league.
Sure does.
And
what does he do?
Steps it up in the SPL.
Instantly.
He's a mechanical god. Let's
be real.
Is.
That is true.
He's like the best solo laner. Hard to kind of dispute that now that CycloneSpin doesn't play there. And you know what, Aggro?
What's that?
When he rotates,
what happens?
People die.
You're not wrong. Toli, why don't you go ahead and slam that tweet or retweet, because we got one this morning that I think that you guys deserve some context on. A good tweet, but you know what? That user, not wrong. SoloOrTroll has had a great year so far and really has stepped up to this SPL level and played very, very well, as we see something we have not seen in a long, long time. A straight-up duo lane over here on the left side of the map. What is going on? I haven't seen this in a long time.
I mean, I've seen Aror experiment with so many different lanes and starts, so it doesn't surprise me. And going back to his signature Season 5 pick, when Aror was still playing with Divios back then in Splyce, this was a flex pick. It was either Cerberus or Artio, sometimes the Geb as well, and what they would do is they would have a 3-on-2 on the dual lane side, and the Cerberus worked out really well because CycloneSpin played a lot of Freya, a lot of magical damage coming through from Moswal back then, and that ghastly breath, that magical penetration, maxed out 42 penetration just from one ability. That's not even including maybe a Spear of Magus that someone else is going to pick up, or even a Void Stone.
It's going to really help out Venenu's damage in the mid lane for sure. We've seen so much of the Spear of the Magus mid laners, plus in the magical ADC that can build Demonic Grip. This is kind of in that same vein, really shredding those protections away so you can make it happen with that damage. And maybe Dingodile's performance on the Cerberus yesterday kind of reminded Aror that, yeah, this god's pretty good and we get a chance to play him. We saw it against the Olorun, and it certainly gave CycloneSpin problems because of that CC immunity on the ultimate and the ability to make plays as we can get a show up on this right-hand side. SoloOrTroll, no Fearless, but has some good power. Should be able to change stance, finds the Fearless on a Ducky, but not quite enough damage to kill him, but certainly enough to dissuade the aggression. SoloOrTroll easily okay in this 1v2.
This is why he was a mechanical god, surviving right there. Can we look at what he's leveling up? Because he stayed in his defensive stance, knowing he was about to get ganked so he can buy time for the heal from the power cleave instead of trying to get away with another dash as he would transform to the offensive stance. So I like that mentality. SoloOrTroll didn't buckle when he was pressured by Weaken.
And it looks like that ability to stand tall has earned a potential blue buff invade. Scream on the way, but might try and make a pincer maneuver, but Mineral's got his dash block, stun off the mark there
Slowed.
from Aror, but that's still going to be first blood for Splyce. Venenu gets credit, but that was a nice job by Scream to body block the dash.
And good rotation from Aror as well. Whether or not you connect the stun, that paralyzing spit still does an obnoxious amount of damage. Ghastly Breath still slows you, as well as the penetration. So the Cerberus pick is going to do things like this, just continue to be the lane bully. And in a composition that Splyce is currently running when CycloneSpin is playing the physical assassin, you need ways to make up for your lack of magical damage, and Cerberus with that penetration helps cover that gap.
Man, I'm so excited we get to see Cerberus again, because it's been a while since we've seen this character. He was the cream of the crop for a little bit in the solo lane. We saw him just about every game, and then really fell off the face of the earth. Now 2 days in a row we see him played in support. I think it's pretty exciting. He's an explosive character to watch for sure.
It's funny because for me personally in the solo lane, I love Hades and Cerberus.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a thing, that weird thing that I
Yeah,
have
it's a
about
theme.
Underlords or whatever, but like those two gods in particular just bring some sort of burst damage that a lot of players don't expect necessarily. The more units you're around with Hades, that explosion just does a lot. Same thing goes if you land all 4 projectiles from the paralyzing spit with just a little bit of power. All you really need is Void Zone on Cerberus, and the damage is just almost unreal.
So no pen boots or cooldown boots for Aror. A little bit surprising he decides to go for the Travelers in this instance. MP5 probably plays a factor here, wants to be able to stay on the map a little bit longer, but also just the ability to move around the map as fast as you can. Usually a pretty big deal. I guess it makes sense when you got these big circle ultimates, you want to be able to get into position as easily as possible.
Exactly, and it's not just to get into position, but once you're channeling that ultimate, you want to move a little bit further away, and it's not much of a movement between, because you are slowed while you use your Stygian Torment, but it's still just enough that maybe that extra 3 feet could be the difference of a deciding factor in a team fight.
CycloneSpin on this set ADC is something we haven't highlighted quite yet and might not get a chance to, because here comes SoloOrTroll. Has Blink available, though he is on a ward. Not going to stop a Mineral. Grabbed up, and that's going to be another kill the way of Splyce. Moswal tried his best, but that Sanctified Field not going to be enough to help out. The Mineral just got grabbed there by the mechanical god himself.
Hey, there was a checkmark list that we have to go through. Did SoloOrTroll rotate?
He did.
Did people die?
They did.
Therefore, SoloOrTroll is?
Mechanical god.
There we go.
There it is. Beautifully done. I mean, I think that is a little bit of a mistake, though, by Mineral to hug that right side wall.
Agreed.
You had a ward there. You should know that there's a potential for that to happen, as Venenu tries to get the solo kill but doesn't find the Frostbolt onto Moswal. And there's Sonic Boom. Good beads from Venenu, but that just means special delivery is guaranteed. Mineral claims a kill, but Aror going to trade out. Gets one on Moswal. Taunt will make sure it's a 2-for-1 in the mid lane for Obey Alliance. Weaken puts himself on the board right on time. Obey Alliance gets the ball rolling.
I was about to mention how that is uncharacteristic for Venenu to make those tower dive plays, but I liked it at first until the global turnaround play, and that's something now that Venenu is going to have to change in the rest of this game.
Scream willing to take this 2-on-1 because he's got the help of his cats. They're going to switch over to Weaken as he takes aggro, and Mineral is going to start to run away, but he's not going to get a chance to. Scream does get the 2-on-1 kill, dodges out that dash, but has to go back. Dazzling offensive forces him the wrong way. But Weaken's still in trouble. SoloOrTroll trying to close the gap and help him out, but might just have to peel Moswal instead. And in fact, Moswal in a little bit of trouble as Aurora's rejoined the fray. SoloOrTroll does take down the enemy mid laner, and Scream just makes it happen on this Bastet, man. You cannot give him the pick.
You definitely can. 2 for 2 on SoloOrTroll's rotations, pairing up with someone dying, Scream on the Bastet as well. Back to his Season 4 enemy days where he used to be with Venenu. Shoutouts to the world's MVP as well. And back then, Venenu didn't need to make those tower dive plays because of Scream making those tower dive plays instead. Benji back then would make those tower dive plays. SoloOrTroll, yeah, he was tower diving in the previous rotation, but it's something that Venenu's going to have to change now moving forward because of the global pressure. It's the Sonic Boom, it's the Defender of Olympus that'll capitalize if Venenu tries to go for that again.
You can just tell how comfortable Scream is on this god. The ability to take that 2-on-1 on the back Harpies, stand tall, not jump away, use the cats, get that extra power boost from them dying. I mean, that is really, really impressive work by him. And I thought that I had goosebumps because it's getting a little cold outside finally here in Georgia, but turns out I was getting chills just from seeing Bastet scream back on the map, man. This is a classic pick, kind of like Aurora's Hercules, that you feel like he can do it better than just about anybody else. No one plays Bastet to the level of Scream.
Yeah, Scream definitely having a lot of experience, so he knows how to really min-max this god, and knowing how to min-max a 1v1 is CycloneSpin, but needs to respect that Athena.
Defender of Olympus there from Mineral, but that extra movement speed from Kingslayer gets CycloneSpin out of danger. Wanted to talk about this set ADC a little bit earlier on, but this is our first good chance to do so. A Warrior's Blessing pickup for him as Moswal is going to lose the beads in the mid lane. Aurora trading Blink ult for that relic. Thought I was going to get interrupted once again. The Warrior's Blessing allows him to trade a little bit more effectively, but I'm a bit surprised at no mages. That bit of CDR and the ability to get Skewer doing more damage feels pretty impactful.
I agree, but against a squishy target such as Jingwei, I don't think you necessarily need it. So the fact that you can just out-sustain the Jingwei with your Skewer safely every 10 seconds to proc for that 40 health, to proc for that 40 mana, allow CycloneSpin to be that lane bully, maybe force Wowy back once or twice and delay a little bit of his farming. But generally speaking, there's more kill potential with Mage's Blessing. I just think that CycloneSpin thinks about safety as well, and therefore Warrior's Blessing kind of back to his old solo lane days.
But he's still building some damage here. It's boost straight into Transcendence. It looks like it is indeed no Heartseeker Rush. Makes sense to me. This is, I think, one of the quintessential ways to build set. If you're going aggressive, as SoloOrTroll tries to find the Blink Fearless. Now he's in a bit of trouble, but Scream is on the way. It's not going to be in time. Ducky takes him down. Scream does drop those cats, but they get spun around by that Sonic Boom. Scream still able to dodge out on that dazzling offensive, so a 1-for-0. Obey Alliance defend blue and take down SOT.
Everyone's allowed a mulligan, right? So SoloOrTroll can't be blamed there, but we get taken out Scream as well. Now Obey trying to make their staple of improvement on this one. I think that this is a team that can't be for granted, right? Splyce is a team that, yes, statistically are better, are more destined to succeed at Worlds based on fans' opinions, based on analysis opinions as well, but sure, Obey have the talent pool for sure. This is a team that doubled their win count between Phase 1 and Phase 2. In all of Phase 1, they only had 5 collective wins, only one set victory over LG. And now in Phase 2, they have up to 10, beating out Space Station Gaming, beating out Dignitas, almost beating out Rival yesterday. Hard to really play against Obey this aggressively.
Obey definitely a team that is improving pretty rapidly and setting themselves up for what could be a pretty exciting placement week for them. Remember, only 2 teams out of placement week do go to the SMITE World Championships, but it's one that is certainly on the cards for Obey Alliance. Matter if they can execute and get there. They've been able to weather the storm early because Splyce jumped off to an early lead in this one. And their late game composition for Obey is nasty.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you've got Ama, Merc, Olorun, Jing, Wei, Athena. That is absolutely stacked come late game.
And the problem is that 3 of their hold that thought though action on the left side, a lot of globals.
Mineral there with the ultimate, and Aurora gonna go down to Wowy. Now CycloneSpin in trouble. It's a double kill for Wowy, but Scream is here. That might be one. The cats take care of him, and Scream shuts him down. With Venenu lurking, it looks like Splyce still want to get aggressive, but can't afford to do so. A 2-for-1 in favor of Obey Alliance, and this set ADC has been punished because of the fact that Jing Wei is just so safe, and then this global pressure from Mineral is so hard to deal with.
It's definitely playing into Splyce's hand, it feels like. The only reason why it was even a 2-for-1 was because Wowy didn't back yet once he hit level 12. He didn't have access to the Aegis. Otherwise, it would have been a clean 2-for-0 from Obey Alliance as CycloneSpin picks the set, trying to bully out the Jing Wei, but as a result, Obey came in with that global strategy plan, picking the Mercury after the secondary ban phase, picking Athena right before the secondary ban phase. They were anticipating this style from Splyce, and that's important to see this kind of a different style, because last time that these teams faced off, it was a very quick set. The average game length was about 20-21 minutes. Game number 1, Splyce won 12-4. Game 2, 11-2. Game 3, 16-3.
That is not a good look, as Weaken not on the good end of that one. Venenu able to take him down. Now Moswal is going to try and answer back. Not enough range on that 2. as Moswal has to drop the Sanctified Field, has to use beads as well, and a big ultimate from Aror, picks up 3, and he's gonna put down Moswal himself. Mineral is able to dash out under tower as Ducky 8 exits stage right, but that's a great job by Splyce's front line. One gets beads, the other one gets everybody.
Splyce dies in the solo lane, Splyce dies in the dual lane, but what happens with these two side lanes combined into one? The kind of Mighty Morphin Power Ranger of a Splyce team combines, they get the kills, they have a window to get the objective, Obey can't respond.
SoloOrTroll top player damage right now, 1-1 and 3 for him. As Scream, 2-1 and 5 with a 2-level lead right now, as SoloOrTroll's in a little bit of trouble, but maybe not as much trouble as his left-hand side. Mineral has to use that ultimate, but it looks like it was more defensive this time than anything. And even with CycloneSpin not being able to find solo kills in this lane, it seems like, despite the double kill for Wowy, he's actually a bit ahead. He's now finished off his Hydra's Lament. The burst capability with Hydra's on set is just crazy, because you can pop a Sand Clone, and it'll give you a Hydra's proc, but there's next to no animation. I mean, you can really auto-cancel that really easily.
And it's going to be important to get that cooldown reduction now with 20% CDR. You're looking at that 7-second cooldown now to be at 5.4 seconds, or sorry, 5.6 seconds to spam very safely. And you're going to be out damaging Wowy Sustain that doesn't even have all the stacks yet on his Devil Gloves. And it's really unfortunate for Wowy that he did die during that 2 for nothing originally, because he would have had the experience lead, and it might have been actually Obey that would have gotten that Gold Fury if he had the Aegis.
Now, normally when we see these assassin compositions, they really want to fight near the mid game, really right around now, where you have your assassin get your big power spike in that 3rd, 4th item slot. Because if we get to the late game, you just don't have that tower siege potential normally. But I think Scream on the Bastet does cover that weakness a little bit. His ability to split push on this character is really, really potent.
It's going to be strong. Now, even though the pets don't eliminate backdoor protection, it's still good enough when Scream is full build if he goes for a glass cannon style, which I am expecting to be the case. He's probably going to be building into Heartseeker later on, even Hydra's Lament, and that physical power, even though they don't have a Hunter, just the base power of Scream alone, even if CycloneSpin combined, should be enough, and CycloneSpin will have a lot of movement speed and ability to assist Scream in those split pushes.
Cyclone sitting at level 15, a 3-level lead on Weekend, so even though he's on that side of the map, doesn't want to go aggressive, unlike Aror, who finds 2 with that Stygian Torment again. Times that's done perfectly, as Moswal needs to use both relics, but Weekend's ultimate doesn't find a lot of purchase. Dazzling Offensive goes next, and that will stun Aror. Mineral gonna try and help out with that Defender of Olympus. A lot of magical damage, and they're gonna get it done, but SoloOrTroll's already cleaned up Moswal underneath his tower. Mineral pinned and eliminated. Scream with a perfect body block with the cats is able to make this a 2v1 for Splyce.
This is the problem sometimes as an Athena. It's hard to really balance playing offensively versus defensively. You use your ultimate to help confirm the kill on Aror. Well, now your backline suffers. Moswal forced to use both relics against Aror. By the way, great delay tactic from him. That Sanctified Field actually, I think, helped out Cerberus while he was jumping. It was like the slowest animation, which avoids Weakened Sonic Boom, avoids his special delivery on top of it, and it allowed Splyce to punish the over-aggressive frontliners out of Obey.
I'm also impressed that Aror managed to time a Stygian Torment stun.
Oh, yes.
Out of the Sanctified Field, because that is a very rhythm ability. You know, you know your timings on exactly when to throw out that paralyzing spit after the ultimate, but landed it anyways. Moswal in this mid lane has not had a great game so far. 0 and 4 on the Olorun pick. And I think that I can't even put that much blame on him. I'm just personally not a fan of the Olorun in the mid lane. I feel like this is inevitable that it happens to you. You just fall so far behind.
We saw Dignitas with Ataraxia actually run the Olorun middle, and it did not work out for them whatsoever. And I think it's more important to run your basic attackers in the long lane, where you get the levels, you get the items. Sure, Sanctified Field is great for team fighting around this jungle camp, but that's about it, really. It's very easy to avoid the rest of Olorun's abilities, whereas, let's say, Merlin can control more space, and other mages control more space than Olorun does.
Absolutely agree with you. It's so easy to kill in the mid lane, and the reason it doesn't become so easy to kill in the long lane is because you just have the levels right there. Is Aror gonna blink in? We've seen this one before. Moswal brought in and taken down Venenu with the kill, but Aror makes it happen, man. These Blink Stygian Torments have been impossible to deal with for Obey.
And this has been without Relic Dagger yet. It's only going to get worse, unfortunately, for Moswal. 20 seconds on his beats, 40 seconds on his Aegis Splyce, having those timers in the back of their minds. Also having the timer of the Fury as they're thinking about looking for another offensive play.
Spawning in about 14 seconds. Now, they don't have someone who can tank this up really, really easily besides maybe Scream's Cats. They might be able to get it done. Weaken. Doesn't get stunned, but still takes a ton of damage. Stone of Binding on Auror's Cerberus is just going to up it that much more. You were talking about maybe a Void Stone. This is kind of the more defensive option and the cheaper option than the Void Stone. Still achieves the same thing, though. Makes Venenu, but also everyone, just do more damage whenever they place a CC on them.
That's true. It's not as much penetration for the magical side from Voidstone, but at least getting physical penetration. The Scream's damage numbers are going to start doing true damage. If he builds one more penetration item, it's going to be hard for the backline to really survive once Aror blinks in Ghastly Breast for the slow, procs the Stone of Binding.
Weaken charging the ultimate. SoloOrTroll is going to blink and interrupt it as Wowy's already nearly dead. In fact, he just might be, has to use the Aegis, and the Lawbringer over the top gets it done. Splyce already grabbed the objective, but they're looking for more kills. SoloOrTroll a little bit too far forward there, gets taken out by Moswal, but Ducky might pay the price for trying to clean up Scream. CycloneSpin puts him down, and it's a 2-for-1 in Splyce's favor. Primal Fury underneath their belts, and it looks like they might be able to get a little bit more as well.
The rotation from SoloOrTroll was so strong there because it interrupts the Sonic Boom that Weaken was channeling. Had that ultimate gotten off, I think Splyce would have been on the defensive, having to deal with this late game-ish Mercury, but instead, SoloOrTroll prevents that from even being a possibility.
CycloneSpin starts the dive onto Moswal. No sanctified field for him and no way to get out. 3 in a row now for Venenu in that mid lane. This level 19 set. What is a poor level 15 Olorun supposed to do?
See, at that point, I'm just kind of questioning why Obey's even there in the first place, but Venenu, a little trouble.
Has to dash away. Good damage coming from Venenu, and Aror there to support. Looks like he did have the blink with the Relic Dagger this time.
And the reason why I think that Obey should not have been there is like, you're not going to keep your tier 1 tower alive. Like, that's going to crumble no matter what you do. In fact, you're going to lose both members and your tower if you try to defend it. But they were like between this tier 1, tier 2 tower area, wishy-washy, not sure what they really wanted to do. And at that point, you have to make a decision. Whether somebody needs to tell you to make that decision through leadership, or whether it's yourself to make that cognitive decision, it needs to be done. And this is what's separating Obey Alliance from becoming this elite team. They make some good, talented mechanical plays, but then they really struggle on some of their decision makings.
Splyce grouping up now around the Fire Giant, about a 6k lead. Frenzy's up in 10 seconds, but honestly, this Fire Giant might be done by then. Ducky does know this is happening, but it's getting lower. Perfect zone by SoloOrTroll. And that is as clean of a Fire Giant as you could ever ask for. And by the way, that did not take a particularly long time. That objective DPS was crazy between the Merlin, Aror, Cerberus has a really big factor in that with that Ghastly Breath on top of it.
Yeah, all those dots between the penetration of the Spear of Magus from Venenu, it's just getting higher and higher. Looking at the player damage as well. Cerberus, more damage than most Guardians are at this point. We're seeing about 1,500 damage differential between the Athena and the Cerberus. And that's also helping a little bit of Venenu's damage numbers, where he's at 9,000 compared to his counterpart, Moswal, at 6,500.
Don't think that you can ignore what Aurora has brought in the damage department this game, but just in the setup, man, I mean, these Blink, Stygian Torments, we talked about Cerberus as a former solo laner who did a lot of damage with the 2-1. Don't forget, man, this is a top-tier initiation ultimate. You can tell he's looking for one right now. Splyce deciding on what they want to do, because Weaken is pushing on this left-hand side, and no teleport for SoloOrTroll. He's got beads and Blink. Speaking of, Aurora's got one of his own, but Mineral going to use some purification beads to taunt him back in. SoloOrTroll into the back line. He's able to zone everybody away. Good Sonic Boom locks down Aurora for a moment, but Weaken gets cooked on the back end. Venenu with number 15 for Splyce, and it looks like they'll start on this Phoenix once again. Minion wave in and ready to go. Frenzy popped for Aurora. Is Ducky going to try and zone everybody away? CycloneSpin out, and Ducky takes out SoloOrTroll the hard way. Mid Phoenix still standing here for Obey.
The Sanctified Field and Dazzling Offensive. Great team fighting ultimates to play defense, but Obey still lost a tier 2 tower on the right and in middle. The gold differential is really starting to favor out Splyce. And if they can't find a way to really mitigate some of this bleeding, Obey Alliance might not make it to the late game that they really need, at least in the item categories.
We saw a very similar comp from them in game 1 yesterday against Rival, where it was very, very late game focused. Rival was up for a long time. They try one Phoenix defense, lose it, and ultimately lose the game because they couldn't break that great late game composition. And this one reminds me of it totally. I mean, this late game comp is really strong for Obey, and despite a 10k lead, Splyce unable to break the Phoenix. Now, I will say that they hadn't backed to spend a lot of their gold there. Look at all the items that just got completed for Splyce.
That's a good call, and not only that, the way Splyce engaged there, Mineral making great adaptations between not only his positioning to separate himself from the rest of the team, but picking up the purification beads. That Stygian Torment, a non-issue now for Mineral, and this 6-item completed for most of the Splyce members are going to be difficult now. Mantle of Discord for Aror. He was taking that Phoenix for a long time, so he was basically out of the fight as soon as they got in.
Couple Heart Seekers for Scream and CycloneSpin. You've got the Ethereal Staff completed for Venenu. Splyce in a power position, and it's only going to get better for them with this Oni Fury going down. I'm speaking in the future here, but it's a foregone conclusion. No one from Obey here. This gives Splyce some time, because by the time they push up this left-hand side, that Oni wave will be coming up near the Phoenix. But their waves are pretty pushed. I mean, Obey didn't do a great job while Splyce had backed of getting these waves off their Phoenix line.
No, they definitely didn't, and even Weekend kind of foregone the split pushing Aror. Trying to go for the stun, had that connect and might have set up for the Stygian Torment after the fact. And Ducky, not the tankiest quite yet, doesn't have much magical protection. I believe working on Oni Hunter now. Could also be Genji's for a nice MP5 health and cooldown reduction.
Looks like Splyce is going to give up on this Fire Giant push, even with the Oni waves coming. Looks like the play is to wait for next FG. Do you like this call?
I believe, yeah. But you got all the towers anyway. There's no real reason for you to go move any forward. There's no real possibility Obey overextend to split push in the counter side. They're not even going to contest the Fire Giant at this point. You're down 15,000 gold. You're just better off playing defense with your big ultimates. Moswal has an easier time positioning his Sanctified Field around his middle Phoenix as opposed to the Fire Giant pit.
Agreed. I mean, I don't think that there's any way that Obey should be defending this Fire Giant. They've shown their Phoenix defense to be very solid, not just in this game, but as a unit, as a team, these last few weeks. Why take the fight where you are not quite as favored? Does mean that that Oni Fury kind of goes down as a waste for Splyce, but not too big of a deal. It's still extra gold and XP that Obey was denied access to.
Just trying to fill the time at this point. Something's better than nothing. I don't think they really care about that wave, because what they really want is the buff that comes with this big boy. Getting the regen as well. They don't really have much team healing. It's more self-healing from CycloneSpin, self-healing from SoloOrTroll. So this extra sustain might help them make that easier of a transition to get the Phoenix.
Ooh.
And
watch out on this left-hand side. Wowy has to use the Aegis, and he still has to use the ultimate, even with extra help coming from Mineral. Magi's Cloak helps out Scream. And so he just got 3 ultimates for 1 and a blink. And an Aegis from Wowy. That's pretty good value.
great tactical play coming on the left side. It's going to open the door on the right now for Splyce.
Weekend's already charging the ultimate, decides better. Now going to start it again. Look at that damage from CycloneSpin Skewer. The right side Phoenix is destroyed. Sanctified Field does find a little bit, but immediately Splyce able to get out of range. And Sonic Boom came through. That's 5. That's all of them, by the way. There's 5 members on the team. Ultimate's down for Obey Alliance, and Splyce has 4.5. Screams is almost back up already.
Yeah, with all that CDR, it's not going to take long for him to have the kitties available. A couple of minions now on the left side, eliminating backdoor protection. Splyce should get this left side for free because the way they're split pushing on the middle side as well.
Cyclone doing so much damage to these Phoenixes, but a great initiation actually nearly kills him. And that left side Phoenix left on just a little bit. Mid Phoenix, on the other hand, still very healthy. Venenu couldn't really pressure that very well. Taunt onto him, holds onto the beads, very patient as Aror blinks in, forces Weekend back towards the team. Has Stygian Torments available as Scream wanted to backdoor with the cats, They don't do enough.
I'm surprised Splyce just didn't group up when they had the ultimate advantage. They still have 3 of them available if they really want to force any issues on the last 2 remaining Phoenixes. They can honestly just sneeze on the left side and call it a day, but they could catch out Ducky here.
Want to try and get him on this speed buff, but he's Ama. He's A-okay. Has the ultimate backup. Scream still lurking on this left-hand side. Fire waves beginning to shove on the right. CycloneSpin gonna join up in mid, knowing that they don't need 2 members on that left-hand side. And Weekend's gonna try and take the 1v1 here. We see this a lot, jungler versus jungler on the Phoenix. But I imagine this has got to heavily favor Scream. As long as he keeps Mercury at a distance and pokes him with the abilities, I don't know how Weekend stays competitive.
Especially with Magai's cloak for Scream, like how are you ever gonna get him in your special delivery? You're gonna have to proc it with the Sonic Boom instead.
Perfect stun by Aror, brings in Ducky, but outside the Blizzard. Sanctified Field not very good, and it doesn't matter because Venenu just cuts him down. That damage after the Aror setup has been flawless. Speaking of, Weekend 1v1 with ease. Scream takes him out as now the Titan in trouble mid-Phoenix. Seems like that one's wrapped up. It looks like Splyce on the precipice of game 1.
You can't fight the kiddies without Enegas, and Weekend suffering the ultimate price. Splyce up 1-0.
No surprise, Splyce take it to Obey Alliance. They get game 1. Really on the back of Auror's phenomenal initiation plays. Then you had Venenu following up. SoloOrTroll was a beast in the team fights. And oh yeah, Scream's Bastet doing whatever it wanted to do.
That was great rotations from both Scream and SoloOrTroll. This tier zoning, interrupting the Sonic Boom during the Gold Fury attempt, interrupting the Amaterasu from coming in for the Fire Giant Steal. Splyce were very clean in most of their engagements. A little questionable as to why they didn't just group up when they had that 4 versus 0 ultimate advantage, but other than that, they ended the game pre-30 minutes, and that's how you can tell that was a good game for Splyce.
Splyce get it done in game 1. Obey Alliance on them now to make some adjustments moving forward in the set. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with game 2.
Alienware, the official PC provider of the SMITE Pro League.
Well, Obey put up a pretty good fight here in game number 1, but Splyce would prove to be a little bit too much for them and close out this very first match. Obey could not quite match up with them this time. I have Zeros joining me here on the desk, though, so we can start breaking things down a little bit more. Zeros, here in this game, what did you see that really stood out for you in this one that kind of got this game so out of control? Because I don't know if there was like any 1 or 2 big moments or anything where it happened. Yeah. It was just like a bunch of fights that felt like that Splyce were able to win.
Yeah, I think Obey has one big main issue now, and that is whenever Moswal is not on top on Merlin, he seems to struggle quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like, he had some decent performances on Hera, but like Hera also, like, this no mobility mages, right? They're really good if you do get to mid late game and you're still even with enemy mid lane or whatever. But when you get punished like he did this game, it's just so hard to make it work.
It really was. It felt like Moswal was not relevant enough in this early game for all the aggression that Splyce were having. Things started pretty early on. Mineral has already been picked here at this point, but this is this fight that ends up going the way in the middle lane where Venenu finds him on this Merlin pick as well, and then Scream is up to his usual antics here in the jungle as well.
This was sick.
This is so nuts.
Yeah, he 2v1s, gets a kill, runs away, jumps back,
yeah, low HP,
gets another kill, and then gets out alive, so just so well played there.
Yeah, and recognizing exactly what his damage numbers are, he disengages, but then when he realizes he's trapped, use that opportunity to come back in, gets the rotation over from SoloOrTroll. They get this kill into Moswal as a result as well, and this is what Scream's able to do with some of these off-meta picks sometimes. He just understands their power spike so well, and here's that middle lane fight where we can just miss his Aror with the Sonic Boom.
Oh yeah, that was a good jump though by Aror, to be fair. Like,
yes.
It's more of a dodge by Aror than it's a miss by Weekend.
Right, exactly. It's really more that he's able to get out of the way. Aror keeps his head on a swivel. They even get a pretty sick body block down here as well to find one more kill with the Bastet Cats as they chase Weekend back out here on the top side as well. This was another big fight from the mid game, and it was like this. It was just like a fights where Obey were getting some kills, but Splyce would just get a little bit more, and then they would go get the Gold Fury and the Fire Giant relatively uncontested. You talked about how their comp was so good at burning those objectives.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I thought Obey had the better comp for burning objectives, but obviously as long as you have a Merlin in your team as Splyce did, that's enough to, like, he has such high objective damage in his fire stance. It's just unreal.
And that roving group of the Bastet, the Cerberus, and the Merlin, those three together do so much damage to the objectives. The Bastet can tank the objective with the Cats, and the Cerberus can shred even more prots along with that Merlin on those objectives as well. And that's why they were able to get Gold and Fire basically uncontested, felt like, in this game. They really played around that draft well. Obey had some good ganks. Weekend ganked on that right-hand side with Ducky into the solo lane. They picked up 2 kills on that side of the map, I believe. It's just that they were never able to turn those kills into much else on the map.
Yeah, exactly. And then you look on the other hand, but whenever Splyce would get kills, they would get so much from it. They would either push down a lane, they would go and get an objective, or like just so much map pressure. Overall. And
this is what makes Splyce so difficult to play against, right? Is that you never know what they're going to play. Scream does play the Bastet often, but I mean, how often, aside from Scream, are you practicing against the Bastet, right? I mean, they play so many different stuff. They put the set in the long lane for CycloneSpin, and even though he started kind of slow with the Warrior's Blessing, eventually got to the point where he was doing good damage.
Yeah, I mean, it's super interesting to see. I don't think we ever seen Cyclone on set ADC in SPL before.
No, not really.
Super interesting to see. Like, as I said, they probably will like try to expand like what they're trying to play and stuff now, because obviously this set for them doesn't matter that much. They're already locked in for HRX, so nice to see they're trying new stuff.
A chance for them to flex and maybe even put some scary thoughts out there for everyone else in picks and bans. You never quite know what to try and take away from Splyce. Obey are going to stick with the Hercules ban, Olorun ban away as well, and Splyce still have a chance to ban either Thoth or Merlin. Maybe they'll just ban one and take the other, not thinking that Obey would top pick it at this point. They ban away the Thoth, leaving Merlin open.
Surely they'll pick Merlin here. Yes!
There it is.
Finally, I got for Moswal. It's been 4 games now.
That's right, where Moswal's had to wait to get one of his comfort picks. Now the pressure is really on Moswal, though. They top pick it, which they have not done for him all week. Even when they picked Merlin for him in Game 2 of their set yesterday, it was the 3rd pick for them, and the what would that have been, 4th pick overall, 5th pick overall that they went. So this is much more prioritizing Moswal here this time. Meanwhile, the set going to come right back over for CycloneSpin and the Thor. These are actually 2 really good flex picks.
Yeah, it is, but like on the other hand, Obey's going to get Merlin and Amaterasu in the same draft there, so that is not bad.
That's not bad at all. Obey certainly have a chance to try and turn this game around. So do you think the set and the Thor are enough value to make up for giving the Amaterasu back over to Obey here?
Good question. I'm not sure about first pick in the set. I would assume this is Cyclone playing the set again. He did have a good performance last game, so I might want to try it again. I think the 4 is like, obviously SoloOrTroll plays a lot of 4, Scream can play it too, but I think that's mainly taking it away from Weekend, because he's been performing really good on 4 whenever he got it. So
that's a great point. If they had given up Merlin, Amaterasu, and Thor, I don't know, you might be able to chalk that win up for Obey right then and there. Those 3 gods have looked very strong for Obey here lately, so smart of them to take it. And Aror, right back to his Horus.
Yeah, really good ban by Splyce though, banning out the Medusa. Obey had exact same comp yesterday, would have an Athena with the Merlin Medusa, and they had so much damage on the Athena taunts. So, like, good by Splyce here to recognize that and taking the Medusa away.
That's heads up. I'll probably give some credit to Kabam on that one. We know that he likes to try and keep the team thinking big picture for them, so we don't know exactly who it was, but just kind of has the feel of something Kabam wouldn't let slip past him as the Jing band comes in as well. These are 2 good bands, not just because of the Medusa synergy you mentioned, but Wowy does really like to play this Jing as well, forcing to go a little bit deeper in the pool.
Exactly. Also so safe against set, right? You can get poked out and you don't really lose too much for it. You can use fly back. Also, really like the Chiron ban that Obey did as well. Chiron's so good against Athena, right? Same as Gab, you cleanse the taunt. Like, really good pick and banter.
And a lot more people have Chiron in their god pool nowadays. That Hunter's mid is normal. But Ven was playing Chiron mid even when some other people weren't. So
Yeah.
I think that you're right. That is a double down ban for them. And now the Kukulkan, you heard his snicker as he came into screen. Kukulkan picked up for Splyce. I mean, we saw him perform well. Are you sold on Kukulkan just yet?
No, I don't think I'll ever be, unfortunately. But I mean, they did win yesterday, and he did one shot last break a couple of times as well. So I mean, it did work.
It is going to be tough whoever gets back there to him, but potentially could be a sitting duck for some of these Athena taunts. Perhaps that's the idea. It doesn't matter if you get taunted if you drop the big ultimate at your feet, right, on the Kukulkan ult. Maybe that's part of the strategy there for them. We head back over to Obey. There's a chance they still need a jungler, perhaps, depending on where this Athena goes, and then something for Wowy here as well. So they'll have some thoughts on what kind of hunter to grab for him. Is there anything you'd like to see?
I'm just thinking of a Kukulkan against Merlin, because I think, if you think about it, Kukulkan kind of has the same kit as Merlin does in Frost Dance. But then you have to think
funny, actually.
then you have to think that Merlin has 2 other stances to work with as well, so I don't know.
Yeah, I've kind of got your whole kit and then a bunch of other stuff in there too. Not bad for him as the Cupid comes out, and this cripple could potentially be strong into the Splyce draft. Plus the Daji. I think that Daji's a great pickup here against this Kukulkan.
For sure. Set doesn't have CC immune out either, so like, really good Dai pick. She does struggle early game though a lot, but if she can get through the early game here, like, it's gonna be so good. This Kukulkan is gonna be such a nightmare for him.
It could be a lot of trouble for Venenu, and he has changed up that build on the Kukulkan. It's the cooldown boots into the Book of Thoth that he'll do instead of into the Doom Orb to make sure he's getting mana online right away. Book of Thoth and Kukulkan's passive almost say the same text, so you pretty much always want that on him, even though that other build's really good.
Yeah, you just give so much mana Book of Thoth and obviously convert to so much power for that god. I do think Doom Orb could be good on him too though, because like any movement speed on immobile gods is always helping out a lot, right? And that's like one of Kukulkan's main struggles, so but yeah, we'll see if he can survive her.
The Mercury comes back out for Splyce this time, which does make it seem much more like the Thor will be going over to SoloOrTroll, the Mercury for Scream, and then the Set going into the long lane for CycloneSpin. Last time, we liked Obey's draft a little bit more, but Splyce overcame that. Yeah. This time here, Zeros, which draft are you leaning a bit more towards?
Still Obey, I think, and also I kind of like the Cupid pick against Set as well, because we talked about Jing Wei, if she get pokes, she can fly back. Cupid has a lot of sustain. I think that's maybe true. If you're in a lot of trouble, like maybe even max the hearts, you know, to just heal up against a Set poke, and maybe he'll be fine in that lane. So, I mean, I think Obey has a better drop, but then again, can they beat Splyce?
That is the real question here, and that's good news, I would say, for Obey, because I think the thing that they struggled for in that 3-game collapse that happened yesterday was the picks and bans. So if that's looking better for them here today, then Obey already have themselves in a much better spot. Let's see if they can turn things around in game number 2.
Thank you, Finch and Zeros, Aggro, and Anatoly here on the cast once again for game number 2. As Splyce returned to the Kukulkan. Now remember, this is not on the patch that is live on your server, on your clients today. It is going to be next week that we see that debut. So Kukulkan not buffed quite yet, but Venenu made it work in the games yesterday with it, and Toly, I mean, there's a lot of setup for him here. Thor, Mercury, Horus, all of those have great CC for a mage.
I almost thought that for whatever reason, once it got locked in, that CycloneSpin was going to play him for whatever reason, because why not? It's Splyce.
He played Anubis a whole bunch so far this year, so I get it.
And won with it, too, mind you. So, but either way, it's a great god that synergizes very well with mana items, right? Between the Book of Thoth, between his passive as well. So you got a lot of base magical power before a lot of enemies get magical protections.
And even then when they get the protections, Aror has Fracture, which takes away 30 procs when you max it. That seems pretty solid to me, as Aror just beaten up on Mineral before he even gets into lane. And with CycloneSpin right there, Mineral is going to take quite a bit of poke. I really like Splyce banning out the Jing Wei this time around if they're going to run back the Set ADC. I think that when you're going these assassin supports, you don't want to give the enemy ADC the safest god in the entire game. Cupid, I think, is a smart pick by Wowy to try and counteract it. You heard Zeros talk about the hearts on the desk. The cripple field hurts Set Sandstorm. but it's still going to be far easier to kill than Jing.
And I think Wowy's looking for the healing potentially. Forced to beads from Aror's early level 1 blink aggressive play. Tell me if you heard that one before. The last time it was actually Moswal on the chopping block for that one. So Wowy receiving some of that. And this Cupid is still kind of safe. You have a dash, you have healing from your heart, you have a slow on your heart bomb, a mez on your ultimate to get you out of dodge. So not as safe as the Jingwei that can get you literally through a wall with the airstrike and back to the lane if you get bullied out, but it's still something that will transition fairly well with the team fights. I like the sustain options from the Cupid.
SoloOrTroll able to bully Ducky a little bit here on this right-hand side. The Thor solo has been a big pick for not only Splyce, but some other teams starting to develop it as well. But I think that Splyce has executed it the best so far, and that's really credit to SoloOrTroll and his mechanical prowess on this god. It's one that is a bit weird, I think, for solo laners to love so much, but I kind of get it. Thor, just one of the most fun gods to play in the entire game as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, you're getting 10 extra power right off the bat from your passive, as Ducky's already getting bullied out, as Amaterasu's tend to receive, and it's so important to get this lane bully advantage. You want to get more Totem of Coups, you want to get more enemy blue buff invades. Thor can poke you out safely. He doesn't have to teleport to his hammer if he doesn't want to, and before your Warrior's Blessing gets fully evolved, you don't have that 15 physical protections to mitigate some of that poke from SoloOrTroll.
I just feel like that against the Thor solo, junglers could probably do a little bit more as far as coming over early in the game, because he has to use the hammer to clear the wave or poke you. He's not going to do either one. And yeah, he'll get Anvil of Dawn at level 5, but even then, I mean, you show up, you don't have to commit anything in order to make him use that ultimate, in my mind. I don't know, I think that this pick, when left alone, is incredibly, it's super good, but it doesn't need to be left alone.
No, I agree with you there, as we do see the jungle rotation out of Weekend, but keep in mind, when you're next to him, he's getting 10 physical power per stack, so that could be 20 physical power extra.
Wowy in a little bit of trouble here, dashes away. So he's okay, as CycloneSpin already used the Sandstorm, but Mineral dashes back in, receives poke for his trouble.
Not having any more potions now, so Mineral needs to watch out alongside Wowy, so could just drop some hearts from him, depending how long Mineral wants to stay in the lane, but not expecting Aror to sit around here much longer once his blink is available. Probably 10 towards middle. Moswal having a little bit of difficulties in the last one, this time on the Merlin. Should be a little safer now with access to the blink.
Aror gets his back stopped, so he's going to have to back it up because there is some threat to him right now. Wowy hits level 4, so he is keeping pace with CycloneSpin so far, despite the earlier purple buff invade. Last game's composition for Obey, really, really late game focused. Really never got there, so we could see its prowess. This composition seems much better in the mid game to me.
I agree. I think Cupid abilities, Merlin's abilities, and alongside even Dodgy is accelerated towards that 3-item marker once you get the Spear of Magus maybe for Moswal or even Divine Ruin, but he's going to be working towards that Doom Orb. A lot of magical power there, 165 to be exact once you do get it stacked, and Merlin this early on when you're trying to control space against a frontline heavy comp like Splyce for frontliners, that Merlin control is going to be felt.
I think it could be really potent here. I mean, we've seen Moswal do it again and again and again and again on this Merlin pick, and that's why Obey is willing to first pick it. It's really been the Thoth of the Merlin that's made Moswal look like he's back in that World Championship form.
I mean, Season 5, it was what? The Vulcan, it was the Outwash, a little bit of the Zeus. That was where his mostly go-to AoE control gods. Now he's more focused about a different kind of space control.
SoloOrTroll, hammer down, gotta use the ultimate as soon as Weekend shows up. And that's exactly what I want to see out of Weekend in order to put pressure onto this SoloOrTroll Thor pick. I think that's perfect. Now he can come back, use that ultimate, still has Blink available. That should be a first blood opportunity. SoloOrTroll on notice right now, especially with his TP still having a very, very long cooldown. Doesn't have it for about 2 minutes.
Yeah, and that's going to be 4 waves that Obey has flexibility to really punish Splyce. Because, sure, you could kill the solo laner, but if he's just going to teleport back anyway, then what real value are you gaining here in Screammmmm and Splyce anticipating aggression in the solo lane?
Weekend waiting to blink in. Doesn't even need it. Silence was perfect, but here comes Scream with the counter engagement. But SoloOrTroll has to disengage, and he does so perfectly. Good beads by Scream, because Weekend was on the mark with that powwow, but SoloOrTroll knew the gank was coming, and Scream was there to assist.
I think he was in range too, but the prioritization of Scream instead of SoloOrTroll surprises me a little bit on the Powwow.
Weekend just tries to get his back harpies, but Aurora's going to steal them with help from his own ultimate. Still has enough protection in the early game with that Guardian's Blessing and his natural stats to walk away, but he forces Weekend off his own back camps. Probably was told he was a pretty weak on that spot. Maybe not as weak as he was hoping.
And that was a great play from Splyce to be able to recognize what Obey's intentions were. Scream only hits Ducky, by the way, with the Sonic Boom. Doesn't actually connect onto Weekend, so the Powwow was still available for that first blood, like you mentioned, but if Weekend had prioritized SoloOrTroll, that first blood should have been guaranteed, especially when you're dropping two other ultimates on top of it, the Dazzling Offensive and the Defender of Olympus. Slightly missed opportunity from Obey.
I agree. I think that if Weekend especially uses Powwow as CC immunity right there, because SoloOrTroll is still on top of him at that moment, as soon as Scream lands that ultimate, SoloOrTroll starts backing up because he knows that Scream was just there to buy him time and some space in order to get away. Mineral doesn't look like he's going to be able to get away. Tornadoed 3 separate times and tossed back in by Scream. That's a first blood for Splyce, but it's all centered around Aurora's setup for that Venenu ultimate.
That was a lot of CC. The stun, the knock-up, the special delivery on top of it. It felt like Mineral was a ragdoll getting blown away by that tornado. So it's only going to get worse now. Book of Thoth just now completed from Venenu. He didn't have it back then. He's only level 8, so only 1 point on that ult.
SoloOrTroll has to use the ultimate. That bleed damage will not be enough. SoloOrTroll still survives, but Ducky maybe trying to pick him off. No, it's blue buff that he's looking for, and this is awfully greedy from SoloOrTroll, or is it? We can take it out. A perfect hammer. Scream pays for it. But man, I thought SoloOrTroll was doing a little bit more of the latter, but not only does he get the kill, but he gets the buff as well.
You got to feel good about that as a solo laner. That's the dream right there. If you lose your blue buff, you basically lose the lane. So SoloOrTroll still in it now. Not in the experience category because Ducky got credit with that kill. The sacrifice had to have been made for the blue buff. It must have been Scream.
Man, Scream's got to get it done, I suppose, and stands up tall for SoloOrTroll. That is crazy that he's able to get that working. Scream, unfortunately, does take the spill, but when you trade out jungler for jungler, but you can secure the buff at the same time, you're probably feeling pretty good. Moswal not feeling very good as he eats a tornado as well as that Zephyr. That is a lot of damage that Venenu is putting out already.
That is a little scary, right? Like, we're seeing this Book of Thoth just now started that stacking, so they have to take mind of this positioning that they have in mid. Mineral with Blink. I don't know how close you want to get to that Kukulkan.
Aurora's blink up in about 9 seconds, and Scream lurking is spotted on the ward, so might be enough to back Splyce up. Scream gonna back, finish off the Erendite, an item that he loves to rush on this Mercury, and I love it. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's power, CDR, a stat that Mercury doesn't normally get, but certainly doesn't hate. With so many team fighting changing abilities, the 3 and the ult. Of course, changing the entire course of team fights, and then getting that extra power and movement speed after the ult is exactly what he wants.
Yeah, the movement speed translates to more power on top of it, so it's going to be a real one-punch man status coming through from Scream. You know, he's been enjoying his anime recently. I'm sure he's seen a couple of episodes there.
Mineral takes a bit of poke in the mid lane off the blink from Aror, but no ultimate from Venenu, but there is an ultimate on this right-hand side. Ducky put up against the wall. CC chain flawless between Scream and SoloOrTroll, and Splyce find kill number 3 centered around Scream yet again. He's been a part of all of them so far.
It doesn't matter if you miss, if you can guarantee the wall pin right there. Moswal took a lot of damage earlier.
Beautiful by Venenu. Predicts exactly where he's going, but now Weekend is going to try and make him pay. Ultimate available for Venenu, but that hits nothing but air. But Aror says, let's get out of here, buddy. Hey man, don't worry about these guys. We get out of here, and takes him outside. Beautiful ultimate from Aurora. That's the big brain plays.
Like in true support fashion, whether or not you have to show.
Oh, double dunk for SoloOrTroll, but a beautiful taunt from Mineral just saved Weekend's life from the full combo. Scream still lurking, but no blink for him. Remember, he went beads to start it off, and it looks like both Weekend and Mineral will survive, but that was a sick dunk by SOT.
Oh, canceling the back out of Mineral. Now, even though SoloOrTroll rotates and someone doesn't die, doesn't mean that Splyce doesn't get anything out of it. They deny A pretty important wave worth of gold to Moswal. They forced several backs now. We're seeing CycloneSpin get a 1-level lead because Wowy was forced to rotate underneath just in case Screammmmm showed up, which he was lingering around that backhand side. So that was a valuable rotation out of Wowy.
Moswal, good poke damage. It only puts Venenu to about a little under half. Held onto the beads, knowing that there wasn't anybody else there that he needs to worry about. Probably going to be backing right now anyway, so that's why he wasn't too worried about that poke damage. Feels a little bit bad that he has to go back right before he hits level 12, but that is one of the things that gets a little bit under-talked about, I think, with Kukulkan, is that he gets back to lane pretty quickly with that slither.
He really does, and he's having more movement speed now with this Messenger's Mask. 10% movement speed, 10% CDR for about 1,200 gold. A very good transitional item that you don't even have to fully complete if you don't want to. And I'm not expecting Venenu to actually finish it off. Probably keep it at tier 2 for the rest of the game.
Moswal doing something similar, but this time with the Cursed Orb. Normally with this start, we see the mid laners go into the full Doom Orb, but Moswal did this yesterday when he fell behind, has fallen behind a little bit here in this one as well, so decides against finishing off that Doom Orb, feeling like he needs pen as fast as possible.
And I could see the logistics behind there when you need to try to peel for yourself against frontliners that might have a little bit of magic protection. Not too much now from Aror, as he's still stacking his Gauntlet of Thebes. Next to nothing against SoloOrTroll that has just Warrior's Blessing. So at that point, you're basically doing true damage to anyone but Aror.
That seems good to me. I like the sound of that as a mid lane player.
But it's Divine Ruin instead, actually.
Gets a little bit of anti-heal here for the Horus and the set. I like it. I think that Divine is just a good item at its core, so getting it here and getting a little bit of extra value out of that passive works for me. CycloneSpin doesn't come to this Gold Fury. Instead, head towards the wave, and that actually jukes out Wowy, because Wowy thinks that nothing's going on. He's on purple, thinking, yeah, they're just clearing out waves, whatever. Spirit of the Nine Winds confirms the first Gold Fury of the game. Kukulkan still one of the best secure mages in the entire squad.
I'm not sure if Obey would have even defended it had they known Splyce was on that objective. Too much confirmed damage from Venenu on the Kukulkan, and what are you going to steal it with? Like at this point, looking at Obey's draft, there's the only real burst damage is Ducky's third hit on that dazzling offensive. The Fields of Love pop on the second hit, which can be reset by that.
Blink taunt by Mineral pulls him back into the damage from Moswal, and Aurora does tumble. Good blink initiation. Mineral on that Athena gets the job done, putting Moswal on the board kill-wise. Probably helps him out, not only in the golden XP department, but just in the confidence department. Getting that first kill does really help.
And also in the stack department race. They're both trying to stack the Gauntlet of Thebes. It slows down Aurora. It helps Mineral keep consistent, unless he dies to Scream.
Which he does. Now Pal used by Weekend in this mid lane. Picks up one. Scream going to use the beads. Tries to take an exit towards the enemy jungle. Look at all those sand clones. CycloneSpin sits down his former teammate with kill number 6 for Splyce. Before that Gold Fury, I was going to say we should check in with these long laners, because Cyclone and Wowy have both been very quiet, but Cyclone had amassed a noticeable lead in that lane and now is able to make it felt elsewhere on the map. Good damage coming from Moswal, but not enough to get the kill. But here comes Ducky on the rotation. Wowy there as well. Venenu goes into the jungle just to find Ducky. Taunt coming in. Aurora is going to fall as well. The side lane rotations take 2 in the mid lane.
And Obey needs something desperate here. I don't even know if they're going to go straight for Pyromancer. Okay, it is going to be a save call instead, but Scream already expecting this, looking for the flank.
Could try and steal, but decides to play it patient. SoloOrTroll just a little bit late on that engagement. Going to head towards his teammate. Wall is solid. That actually does body block the baby, but SoloOrTroll still going to fall. That's a good chase from Obey Alliance, and just like that, what was a massive lead for Splyce is now still noticeably big, but not to the position where it was just a few moments ago. Obey, find a bandage for the wound.
Splyce did this last game where they were a little too aggressive and disconnected. This time the frontliners Scream and SoloOrTroll not on the same page. Scream's ultimate, Sonic Boom, not available during that Pyromancer. Even when the escape tried to be occurred out of SoloOrTroll, still wasn't up. So he's like, there's no way I can really help in that case. It would have been a nice idea to Sonic Boom behind the Fire Giant if it was up, but Obey really punishing Splyce now with 2,000 gold from both towers on the right side.
That is huge. Obey Alliance open up the entire right side of the map. very early on in the game. Now, at the same time, Splyce did get tier 1s, both in left and mid, so that's pretty relevant. And CycloneSpin does have Hydras, so his tower damage is really solid at this point. That's going to trade a tier 2 for a tier 2. Feel like Splyce made the noticeable effort to trade. CycloneSpin has the beads and uses Kingslayer for the extra movement speed just to be safe. I feel like Splyce decided that was a worthwhile trade and looks at a little bit into the future. Obey, it seemed like just a little bit slow at responding to that left side tower push.
They were definitely overcommitted on the right side. They needed all 4 members. After the kill onto SoloOrTroll, they didn't have a minion wave close enough to the tower, so they had to wait a little bit longer, allowing CycloneSpin to make that split push a possibility. And getting all that solo farm now, the experience difference between Wowy and CycloneSpin is really starting to show off now. 2-level lead, 17 versus the 15, and a very important counterplay from Splyce when they kind of dropped the ball around the Pyromancer.
In the XP charts, you saw that, hold that thought, Wowy just gets crushed by Scream. Still has Aegis and doesn't need it quite yet. Beads were expended by Scream, so not all bad. Mineral there with some good peel. I think Scream knew that Mineral was there, was just hoping to get the one-shot potential, but Mineral was ready for the peel.
Seems like it was a damage check, because without Deathbringer, you don't really have that one-shot potential as opposed to once you do versus once you don't. So it's a good little test in the water. You dip your toe in there. You could easily take it out if you don't know things going to keep your foot inside the water there. It was only 2 players, so you got to take some of these risks from time to time. But I'm surprised it was there, because if you get the kills there, you're not really getting an objective after the fact. Most teams are now in a position in the SPL where they only fight around objectives. And if you die at that point in time, you're just giving Obey a chance to come back.
SoloOrTroll taunted, holds on to the purification beads, but takes about half his HP. Weaken continues the chase. Powwow used, and that'll get the ultimate out from SoloOrTroll. This might be a re-engage. Obey pretty grouped up, and indeed it is. It's a double dunk coming from SoloOrTroll. Aror gonna try and flank on the other side. Venenu still has ultimate, hasn't used it yet. And SoloOrTroll does go down, but look at CycloneSpin chewing up Obey Alliance and spitting them out. It's a double kill for Splyce's ADC. Venenu's ultimate doesn't find anybody, but CycloneSpin is going to find a third. It's a triple kill for Cyclone, and Ducky looking like number 4 potentially as he dashes away in the mid lane. Scream blinks in, trying to set up CycloneSpin. Takes that one. It's a killing spree for Scream as Weaken does find 1, but it's 4 in total for Cyclone in that fight. 1 for Scream, a deicide for Splyce.
And they're going straight to the Fire Giant. I like this call, but who's going to tank it? Scream full health. Aurora is tanky with less health, has the healing as well. Doesn't look like Venenu is going to receive the Fire Giant.
Doesn't seem like it. SoloOrTroll will. It might TP in order to help affect on this engagement, but doesn't really need to, I don't think. I mean, there is so much DPS here between a Mercury and a Hydra's Lament, Transcendence, Jotun's Wrath set. Hey, CycloneSpin, just tell me if you've heard this one before, Toli. CycloneSpin playing an assassin in a 1v1 lane.
Yes.
Gets really fed.
Okay.
Rotates to 1 team fight.
Yep.
And quadra kills them.
Yeah, sounds like Season 2 CycloneSpin days.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like that. Splyce getting hot at this time when this meta is this way, not a coincidence in my mind. I think it fits them well. Primal Fury getting lower, and Obey does secure it, but CycloneSpin gonna go once again. Kingslayer ultimate popped, and Wowy dashes out with that help of the Fields of Love. Mineral left for dead. Cyclone finds his 6th, 6-0 now for the ADC set. Cyclone pulled back in by the dodgy Powwow as Wowy does get cleaned up by SoloOrTroll on that backline dive. Spirit of the Nine Winds does not land, but that damage from the skewer is disgusting. Unstoppable is an understatement, as that's 7 in a row for Cyclone.
You know, Obey did confirm the Fury, but at what cost? Losing 3 members. Splyce relentless about chasing down Obey Alliance, punishing them, and most teams are able to walk away clean from those Furies after the opposite team gets the Fire Giant. So I don't blame Obey for trying to go for that objective. I think Splyce just has too much mobility.
Hello, Scream uses that ultimate in order to get some CC immunity on the dash. Also try to set up onto Ducky, but a little bit ambitious to try and take down the level 18 Amaterasu on that side of the Phoenix. Look at this. SoloOrTroll has the ultimate, gonna look for somebody. It's probably Wowy coming out of base. Wowy no beads. Changes the targets, finds a frontliner. In fact, it's Ducky once again. Taunt onto SoloOrTroll. No purification beads for him and has to use them, but it's too late. Wow, he pops him with that Fields of Love. The cripple ends up messing with SoloOrTroll's plans. Weekend gonna go in. CycloneSpin happy to try and take this trade as he's gonna try and do it all himself once again. Pulled in, ultimate that time from Venenu. Again, not able to find a home. Aror may have sent himself to the grave just to try and zone away the enemy of Obey Alliance. Aror tries to take Venenu out, but Ven not gonna go anywhere because Auror's already been taken out. Good tornado, gonna try and turn it, but Venenu is dead. Number 10 now for Obey as they hit double digits. A good defense on the right side, Phoenix.
A little over-ambitious from Splyce at the end of the day. They already received the middle Phoenix, going for the right Phoenix without a minion wave. Overextension by far, and there wasn't much follow-up there. Going on to the likes of Ducky with no follow-up, you get instantly taunted. The cripple from the Fields of Love, his beads were a little bit too late there, and once you lose your frontline Thor, you're losing a lot of sponge damage that needs to be absorbed because Venenu can't tank the damage. CycloneSpin didn't have beads, so he felt he needed to commit with the Kingslayer. And once you lose your frontliner, you're losing the rest of the fight.
SoloOrTroll didn't hear Mineral clearing the blue. I'm shocked because this should have been a kill on the Mineral. I mean, he has ultimate at this point, I suppose. Scream might be able to chase him. There is enough mana there for Mineral.
Now, you know what it was? He probably did hear it, but he knew his blue, or he thought his blue buff was based on the mini-map. So he was going for the blue buff. Unfortunately, he saw it was down. Couldn't make a rotation back to stop Mineral, but at this point in the game, speed buff not the end-all be-all.
Weekend walled off in an awkward spot, but has Trickster Spirit. Probably just trying to decide if he wants to go in at this point. Scream charging ultimate. Might have Moswal, and he does. Big crit for 750 right away, and made you look just a little bit too late. Flicker is solid. Scream gonna lose this trade up against 3 in the mid lane, but nearly took out Moswal through both of his relics.
Unless you know where Mineral is, it's almost not even worth engaging on what you might think is going to be an isolated target because they are never alone. Moswal protected by Mineral. This time, Ducky protected by Mineral. Last time on the right side, Phoenix. I like the play, the defensive style from Mineral on the Athena that's been so used to playing the Erlong Shen supports, all these aggressive warriors or assassins that honestly has helped Obey win some games.
Look at this in the mid lane. This is actually surprising. I mean, despite a 8K gold lead, none of it feels like it's in the mid lane. I'm sure there is a gold lead for Venenu, but XP, not the case. He's down about a level and a half to Moswal right now, who on this Merlin, shocker, is making plays and keeping his team in the game. He's top of his team in player damage.
I think that last kill onto Scream was a big impact and boost of experience to Moswal. The mechanics of when you're behind levels, the enemies that you killed that are higher level are worth so much more. So killing a level 20 Mercury that was on a huge killing spree, I think it was 4-1 at that point, gave a lot big of a boost to Moswal.
Scream building into Hydra's Lament on the Mercury. He's really going for that one tap sort of option. And you know, we don't see Hydras on Merc, and I don't have a great answer as to why.
I don't hate it.
I mean, everything he does sets up for an auto attack, right? He ult auto, 2 auto, 3 auto, they're dead. No way they live from that. I think it does make some sense. It's a little bit unconventional, certainly lacking penetration, so it's going to be very difficult for him to kill Ducky or Mineral. I think a lot of players would go Titan's Bane in this slot. But if he's not hitting frontliners, then why go pen?
Now, the one thing that we changed recently, or a little bit ago, was Mercury's Made You Look, where it only procs critical strikes now and not on-hit item effects. So you're not getting the Hydra's Lament proc on your one, but
correct.
If you're going to Sonic Boom that close to Moswal anyway, you're getting the Hydra's proc with that next follow-up.
100%. I mean, if you can do the skill check for Mercury Ultimate isn't always just landing it. It's landing it and not overshooting your target by a mile. It's stopping on a dime right on top of them, and Scream did it perfectly in the mid lane on Moswal last time. If he's able to do it this time. That crit was 750 last time around with a Hydra's enhanced crit and Fire Giant. That's approaching 1K.
It's going to be a little scary for Moswal. He has beads now available. Still no Aegis for 20 seconds, but I'm anticipating it should be ready once Splyce does commit to a Phoenix Siege. Mid Phoenix has respawned for Obey, and their Phoenix defense is, I think, pretty good. Fields of Love covers a lot of space. Moswal can easily drop a Blizzard. Even going for that Staff of Mirrodin now. I like this ability.
Venenu has sold his Messenger's Mask. It was to finish off the Polynomicon. No Spear of the Magus, and a lot of longtime Kukulkan players will tell you that Spear is a trap on Kukulkan because you do the vast majority of your burst damage up front. It's your first abilities that are your landing, not your tornado, then into ultimate the vast majority of the time. I'm still not convinced, though, because Spear is so much power effectively because of how much flat pen you can stack. Even if you one-ult someone, it feels like Spear might just be better, but that's a discussion for another time in a longer place. SoloOrTroll hanging out on this left-hand side. It's Scream on the right, CycloneSpin in mid, a 3-1-1 split for Splyce. Venenu tasked with defending up against Moswal. Seems like a bit of a risk, though, because Moswal can easily get all in tier, and Cyclone tried, but did take about half his HP for it. Good job by Moswal.
Did he have to use the Kingslayer, though? Looking
No,
at it, looks like it's still up, so that's a good look as they're transitioning to the left.
Wowy has to use beads off Auror's Blink initiation. Ducky has to use some beads of his own as Venenu's ultimate doesn't find anything. Mineral has to use his. Auror in trouble, but able to get a Mantle of Discord proc that allows him to Protector Surge out of there. That is exactly how you draw it up.
I was about to say, like, how did he get out of that one? He didn't have the beats available, no Mag Ice Cloak, but yeah, Mantle Discord turns out pretty good.
Pretty good. Mantle of Discord's a messed up item, man. It is messed up.
I'll never forget when Barracuda picked it up back in like Season 3, Season 4 on the 100 days, and he actually said he made a play calculated because he knew that I think it was against Adapting Store. He was going to get Doe, and he was anticipating that to proc, and it worked out. He won the 1v1.
Mini Geb ult around you. Seems pretty good to me. SoloOrTroll with the Thor ult, channeling, looking for Wowy most likely. No beats for him. He's going to be the one on high alert, but instead it's the front line. It's Ducky who's going to get CC chained, but not enough follow-up damage there quite yet. Left side Phoenix hasn't taken a lick of damage, but Scream comes running through the whole team fight. Venenu's ultimate again actually hits Weaken right as he blinks in. That nearly killed him right off the bat. Venenu with the foresight to fire off that ultimate. I'm going to give him credit, at least in that situation, but the left side Phoenix doesn't even take a point of damage, and Fire Giant is gone in 15 seconds. Another defense by Obey.
It's just only going to take one good ultimate from Venenu to really open the door for Splyce. Now, he's been a little bit too frisky throwing it early in that fight, but the last one was a little bit more calculated. He needs to wait for some of the escapes to be already down, and the way Splyce engaged this time around was really smart because Wowy didn't have Fields of Love. This is what's really stopping Splyce from getting almost a free Phoenix.
Yeah, it's really difficult to team fight against it. I do wonder, I didn't check and see, did Venenu have the ultimate when SoloOrTroll dunks Ducky? Because if they just one-shot the Ama, that fight goes really well for them in my mind. And yes, you want to use that Kukulkan ult to just obliterate a backliner doing 1.5, 1.8k damage. It's what we play mid for, man. It's so much fun, but you got to take what the defense gives you, and that is the check down pass. It's just hitting the front liner with the ultimate and hoping that it maybe clips a backliner on the way out.
But now with Ducky just finishing off Spirit's Robe, it's going to be harder to get one shot.
Sure.
I think before this item completed, maybe go for that idea, but maybe if you could just force out Ducky, you don't have to worry about dazzling offensive now, and then you could just create more space for your own frontliners and backliners to advance past the Phoenix. So I still like the idea of maybe trying to one-shot him because even though Ducky does have Spirit's Robe, he doesn't have that much health in his build.
Scream gets the Elixir of Speed and starts working on a Wind Demon most likely, but this does hurt his power in one way. Does give him more crit chance, but also takes away movement speed. Elixir of Speed gives you the 18% that regular boots give you, not that 25% that Talaria give you.
Sure.
So he lost a little bit of power and movement speed, but the increased crit chance should, in theory, make up for it. I like what Splyce is doing here. They're going to wait until this Fire Giant is enhanced. Keep it pulled. You don't have to pull it after 30 minutes. As soon as it dings to 30, whether it's at 1 health or full health, it'll become enhanced.
And with all this vision, this is guaranteed from Splyce. No one from Obey to guarantee steal it around. And I think this is the very first time we've ever seen that delay tactic out of any team in any league.
We've seen teams, I think, wait around for a little bit, but probably not that long. That was, a full 15 seconds or so that they had it pulled. But heads up by the boys of Splyce.
They cut it really close, too, because
They did.
Venenu dropped that Tornado thinking it was going to be longer of a DPS check. I think they got it like 30.05.
Yeah, that's just efficient play by Venenu, man. Nothing else you can say. I like giving red buff over to Scream here. Just let him one-shot somebody. And now, with Enhanced Fire, and red buff, and Hydras. He's got 400 power. There is no way he doesn't one-shot someone. He just crit a buff for 2k. And that's without an Erendite proc. If he ults,
pretty good.
if he ults, someone's gonna get one-tapped. And I'm excited, man.
Does the Wind Demon also get movement speed when you proc it?
It does.
Yeah, so that's going to be a good one-shot potential here, or a guaranteed two-shot. I don't expect Moswal to be able to be Zegas against Scream this time around.
This might be the time for Splyce. They tried the 3-1-1 split. Didn't really work. Cyclone couldn't get in past the wave clear of Moswal. Weaken, looking on this right-hand side, has the Magi's, so potentially could win the 1v1. Won't get CC'd by that Sonic Boom, but they're going to try and get beads out here from Scream. Blink in for Mineral seems likely to me. I would at least force the Purification beads. Scream, remember last time he went from right to left the whole way. There it is, Blink in onto Scream. He's getting really low really quickly, and that Powwow ultimate's going to get it done. Scream gets 2v1, but SoloOrTroll takes out Wowy on the left-hand side. Moswal as well goes down. CycloneSpin able to claim his life. And Cyclone in a bit of an awkward spot until a big dunk comes through from SoloOrTroll once again. Going to try and keep the chase going on to these backliners. As Weaken going to dash in, finds Venenu. Left side Phoenix finally falls as Venenu jukes around inside the whirlwind. Takes out Ducky with the Zephyr. Mineral doing what he can. Slows him down, but it's a double kill for Venenu. Mineral is going to fall as well. It's a triple kill for Venenu. Puh! Spits on two of them. Triple for him. And Splyce going to win game 2.
And by the way, CycloneSpin got the middle Phoenix and was going for the Titan the whole time while Splyce was fighting on the left.
Who needs to be landing in ultimates with Kukulkan, man? It's overrated. You just got to hit your whirlwinds, juke around inside them, and hit the spit. Because that's exactly what Venenu did there.
We call those zoning ultimates.
That's right.
The real abilities is the 1 and the 3.
I say it a lot with Poseidon. Your Kraken late game, not that important a lot of the times. It's really your Whirlpool placement that wins you games. Kukulkan ultimate probably a little bit more necessary than Kraken because you don't get the utility of the Whirlpool, but still Venenu makes it work. Ends up top player damage. Good peel coming from his team as well. Obey get the ideal situation. They kill Scream without him doing any relevant damage in the team fight, and they still lose the siege.
See, the problem was before the siege, during the aggressive play where they got the kill on SoloOrTroll, and then they transitioned that to 2 towers on the right side, but then they lost too much to CycloneSpin on the left. You give CycloneSpin freedom to farm, he's going to make you punish for it. That set did a lot of work in that last team fight.
Yeah, it feels like it's time to take Cyclone off that set. Can't believe it took us 2 games to get to that point, by the way. Game 3 coming up. Stay tuned here at the SPL.
INAP, powering the control room for the SMITE Pro League.
Welcome back to the SMITE Pro League. Splyce able to find another game victory here in that match just now up against Obey. And speaking of Splyce, if you all have been wanting to get their cool new Jormungandr skin, that's all part of the HRX loot pack. That'll be coming. You should get that. The digital loot pack, 1,500 gems. Seems like a pretty decent price to me. Make sure you pick that up. It's not just the Splyce skin that's in there. A ton of other cool stuff to augment your experience when you're enjoying High-Res Expo, November 15th through the 17th. But to help me break down this set, I still have Zeros with me here on the desk. Zeros, it's kind of become your place. We just plop you down here all day long, it feels like.
I've been sitting in this chair for for quite some time now, actually.
since 11, I guess, yeah, or something like that. But in this game here, this is a much better game from Obey. It felt like they, or at least in the late game, they were combative towards that mid game too, but they really stalled Splyce out when it came down time for that Phoenix Siege. They had some real trouble breaking open this base and actually getting to Obey.
Yeah, yeah, definitely looking better. But then again, Obey gets pretty much all their favorite picks. You know, you have Moswal or Merlin, probably the god he prefers the most right now. And we'll be talking so much about it as well, right?
Yeah.
Give Moswal a comfort pick, and he gets a comfort pick. So same for Ducky, right? Gets
Yeah,
the
he gets
aim,
the armor,
probably
yeah.
the one he's been performing the best on, but like still not enough.
And this was CycloneSpin making that big play when the game was not entirely close, but pretty close, where Obey could still fought in. But CycloneSpin finding a delayed quadra kill for the full deicide turns things around for this team in such a major way. He's even able to find some more picks here as well on this set. But when it came time for the Siege, CycloneSpin had a really hard time picking his spots. He couldn't really get in and get to the back line. They weren't going to be tanking quite the same. It looked like they were relying a lot more on Venenu towards that late game, and his ults weren't always on the mark like they needed to be, but he was doing enough.
Yeah, that's the problem with this kind of comp they're running, right? They have no hunter. They don't have a magical hunter.
Right.
They don't have a physical hunter. It's really hard to siege Phoenixes because, like, who's gonna be in there and hitting the Phoenix? You know, you don't want your assassins to be in there because they're gonna take damage from the enemy backline down. So that's the weakness of this comp. But like, any team fights outside of the Phoenix wasn't even close, to be honest.
Right. Once, if they weren't having to deal with that extra Phoenix, I agree. You saw Venenu juking for his life on that final push, dodging and weaving inside that tornado to make sure that he extended his life as long as possible. And that last push, it's so difficult when you decide how you use resources. They sent 2 people over to deal with Scream.
Yep.
It was Weekend and one other, and they do get the kill on Weekend, the 2v1, but they left the rest of their team in a 4v3 on the left-hand side, and Splyce won that pretty handily. How do you decide how to split up in those moments? It must be so difficult.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they had enhanced fire at that point, so like obviously Splyce is so much stronger. But I think it was a good call by Obey anyway, because they put 2 men to kill Scream. They get the kill,
Right.
and one of them is an Athena, so he can out over as well.
Yeah.
But the other people of Obey had already died. I think Ducky died, and then Moswal got like soloed by Cyclone in mid as well. So they already lost 2 members while they got 1. But I think the idea was good. I don't know what happened on the other side, but they needed to survive. Maybe they couldn't. Maybe they got CC chain or something. But I think it was a good try by Obey.
Yeah, and so much of SMITE does come down to that, the front lines and how long can your individual front lines hold up, and whichever one of those walls kind of breaks first, the rest of them get collapsed on. And it's a bunch of different kinds of, sometimes it's the solo laner, it's the junglers like we saw there. You kind of have to be able to hold on long enough for your team with the numbers advantage to win and come over and make up for it. And in that fight, Scream bought just enough time for Splyce to be able to win their fight.
Yeah, exactly. And then like they already lost 2 members. They tried to kill Venenu after, but he's just joking around in his own whirlwind. And yes, just so much damage. Like, and they all end up dying.
So difficult to get to Venenu from that spot. But is this a picks and ban issue? Is this an execution issue that you would say now for Obey? Because I think they did get likely an ideal draft.
Yeah.
The dodgy pick made a ton of sense for Weekend and actually did some work. It just didn't pan out for him.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they Obey should probably look to get rid of the set, I think, because I feel like Cyclone's doing way too much in the early, the mid game especially. Like, it's so hard to lane against the set as a hunter as well, and you see Cyclone gets this big level leads, and then like whenever they fight around Golfio and stuff, like he's just kind of running these team fights, you know?
Exactly. I mean, even without many rotations, CycloneSpin was a level or 2 ahead of Wowy for most of the game. That does make it really difficult to win once they start grouping up. Even when Obey made that big push and they won that fight in mid, I mean, even still at that point, I believe Scream and CycloneSpin were still ahead of their direct opposition. So even at that point, they were still fighting into a deficit. They got to do more to make sure they can make it to the late game on even ground, as we are in the picks and bans for game number 3. Yesterday, a reverse sweep came out against Obey, so perhaps that's just in the air here this week, and maybe Obey can find something like that of their own. They will ban the Olorun, Isis, and Hercules to try and make that happen. Yeah,
I think Obey should probably pick set here, right? Just to take it away from Cyclone, because as I said, I think Wowy has really been struggling against it in lane, but we'll see. The aim is open as well.
Do you move away from the Merlin already at this point too? Yeah,
that is the thing as well. Like, I suppose, yeah, there we go.
Well, just as you said, they took that set away from CycloneSpin. Splyce, I think, very likely should get Amaterasu Merlin in response here and not let that go back over to Wowy. It would be a pretty strong response, but you were leaning like getting this set away from CycloneSpin was the right call. You still feel like that was the way to go?
Yeah, I think so, because I feel like Cyclone's been doing too much on it and it's been too hard for Wowy. Because like Wowy is, like we talk a lot about Moswal, how he is like a big carry for this team when it comes to playing the top for the Merlin, but so is Wowy when it comes to like playing anything really. Like if he's not too far behind, he can also do a lot. So
he certainly can have some strong performances as Splyce give up the Amaterasu back over to Obey in favor of this Thor for SoloOrTroll. They do obviously grab that Merlin, though, to keep that out of the hands of Moswal, and I think that's smart as the Jing comes in. They have both the set and the Jing, so that set then, I guess, is going to the solo lane. Maybe that's why they were okay letting the Amaterasu through, is that they think that it would be in the same spot as the set?
yeah, I suppose.
Maybe
Yeah,
they
this
were
is
right.
definitely set solo. I don't think I've seen Weekend play it either, and I've mentioned it a lot of times, but I don't think set jungle is necessarily that good either, because I feel like he should be in a lane, because he's so strong at laning, and in jungle you don't get to do that at all.
So that's why they pick it up, and then Splyce have a chance to come back and grab Amaterasu with their third pick here, the 6th one overall. And if that was the call, kind of gambling that set would fill that slot, then that's pretty smart. But instead they get Auror's Horus this early on with the Hercules already banned. He's been playing it all set and looking really good on it here so far.
Yeah, it's one of Auror's early game junglers, early game supports rather, that he really loves to play. He can invade with it, he can do whatever he wants at level 1. And also so strong combined with Merlin. Like, you have such a long CC chain, which is 2-1 combo, and then Merlin has so much follow-up damage on that as well, right? When Merlin has some time to use his abilities, like he can be an Arcane stance, Fire stance, any stance really, he has so much follow-up on the Horus setup.
They ban the Chiron, even with the Merlin already picked up. I suppose CycloneSpin certainly could play the Merlin at this point, so you want to make sure you ban that one out. So you still like that Chiron ban there?
Yeah, I do
Merlin,
for sure.
Yeah.
It's really good against Athena, so.
Just make sure that it's not going to fall in anyone's hands. Splyce take another look, though, at Moswal banning the Poseidon and the Hera in the second phase. They've already banned the Thoth and taken the Merlin away. They're really cutting deep into Moswal's pool here.
I think the Hera ban is really good, because I wanted to mention that too. I don't think Hera would have been too bad against Obey here, because he's most likely going to be against the Merlin in mid anyway, and like, Hera can farm against Merlin, that's not a big issue. Obviously Horus could be a problem for her, but she can probably survive that.
And last time when they lost the Hera and the Thoth and the Merlin, they went to the double hunter strategy. They gave Moswal the Xbalanque, and that didn't look particularly good. So if I'm Splyce, I don't know if you're expecting exactly a Xbalanque, but double hunter is certainly not out of the realm of possibility for Obey at this point, as Thanatos comes in for Scream. Kind of meta, but certainly still in Scream's wheelhouse.
Splyce has a lot of dunk potential with this comp. Like, they have three gods that can just come from up and just bam.
Thor, Horus, and Thanatos, keep your eyes on the skies in this game, because a lot's going to be coming from up top here from Splyce. So now we'll get our chance to see if Obey do fall back to the double hunter. And Agni being hovered, we don't see much Agni at all lately, Zeros, but I feel like he's still good.
It makes sense for Moswal, because like the gods he plays kind of has a similar kit to Agni, like a safe dash, like kind of safe long-range damage. So it makes sense. I remember he played it at HRX last when they won. He played it against Rival in the final. I'm not sure if it was 1 or 2 games, but he performed really well on it. So like, actually a really nice pick here, I think.
I think you are right, not just on your read that Agni fits in well here, but that it is within Moswal's preferred playstyle too. He likes to be able to be aggressive and then have that dash sort of as a safety cushion to fall back on, and Agni lets you do that. Nemesis coming through as a response here for Splyce's. Apparently Ven is all in on this Kukulkan here at this point.
Even pre-buff.
That's right, yeah.
That's crazy.
Ven's going to stop playing it next week once they're back on this new patch, apparently.
Yeah,
so he's just enjoying it now. This Nemesis pick that's coming in, which is going to confirm it is going to be the set in the short lane. Do you like Nemesis here? I mean, these slows could be impactful, but, I mean, the Kukulkan should be able to get out of it relatively well. The Thanatos too, do you like that here?
Not really, because like they really lack CC, I feel like, Obey. They only really have Athena for CC. And like Thanatos and Kukulkan both have slow immunity in their kit as well. So the Nemesis, they can be like Athena taunt into Agni damage, into Nemesis ult. They can really blow up tanks here, or like anyone who they get to taunt on. So I like it for that reason, but I feel like they really lack CC, and they have slow on set and slow on Nemesis. And I feel like the slows are not that great here, so...
Yeah. They're putting a lot of pressure, I think, though, onto Moswal. Agni can really cover some of those gaps in terms of CC missing with the Noxious Fumes sometimes, but that's if you want him to be the setup guy instead of the follow-up. But they trust Mineral's Athena. They top-picked Athena for him yesterday 3 or 4 times. They really want him to have it, and he's been on the Athena every game here today as well. Clearly, they trust Mineral to be able to facilitate on this Athena pick for them out of that support role, and he's going to have to come up big with some big taunts.
Yeah, for sure. But then again, it's kind of scary composition to dash into to taunt, because he can get walled off. There's so much damage coming out from the Kukulkan and Merlin as well, right? There's so much CC. Horus can stun you when you go in, Thor can stun you, and then obviously you have the Thanatos to execute you as well when you try to get out. So really risky for this Athena to go in, but like he's the only true frontline here, so like he has to, but I think it's going to be hard for Obey.
This is going to be tough because the Set and the Nemesis both kind of like to bide their time. They're not necessarily brawlers that are right in your face the whole fight. They'd much rather come in once dashes are down and then they slow you and keep you in auto attack range. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Jingwei, Athena, and Agni to kind of carry the fight long enough for the Set and the Nemesis to find their spots in these fights.
Yeah, for sure. Also something worth mentioning, like if Nemesis gets Hasting Katana here, like she can really run down Kukulkan. If she ever gets him alone time with this Kukulkan, he cannot one-on-one a Nemesis at all. There's just no way. But then again, I feel like Splyce is good enough. They're gonna have someone, they're either gonna be the Thor or Horus peeling for him. And I think it'll just, I don't know, I think it's just gonna be really hard for Obey to beat Splyce with this comp.
It is going to be difficult, especially because the Kukulkan, we saw Venenu show us those juke boots back in game number 2. So when these melee-focused characters like the Nemesis and the Set try and get close, he can buy himself a little bit more time, make sure they take even more damage from those tornadoes as well, and try and keep them locked down in there. So there's a lot of options, I think, for Splyce to respond. It does sound like you're leaning towards Splyce here as your favored. So if Obey were to win this game, then what do you think it would look like? How can they line these pieces up sort of in an ideal world to grab this win here over Splyce?
I think they have to get off to a good start. Mineral's almost sleeping over there. I think they have to get off to a good start.
Gotta be comfortable, you know.
This Athena has to be able to play aggressive without being too afraid of dying. But I think that's gonna be so hard because of like obviously Thanatos so good early game. Nemesis not the worst either, but like not at the same kind of level as Thanatos, you know. And then you have Horus a lot stronger than Athena as well. So yeah, it's gonna be rough. But if they can get off to a good start somehow, Obey, where Athena can play aggressive without being too scared about getting punished, they can definitely set up for some good kills and like some good picks.
That could be potentially their winning formula. And I think having Wowy in a matchup where he doesn't immediately get behind could potentially help too on this Jingwei. He should be able to come into late game with some relevance. I also wanted your opinion. He hasn't been able to build much crit, it's felt like. We've seen a lot of just the attack speed and pen build from him on the Jingwei. Do you think that's fine? You're still getting plenty of Jingwei value there, or does she kind of need to be able to pivot into crit pretty regularly?
I think you can build both ways. I'm not really sure how Hunters decide.
Sure.
Like when they go into the game, I'm gonna go crit this game or I'm gonna go Kins.
They just show up and they have one or the other, right?
Yeah, because like it might have something to do with like, do we need objective damage? And the team says yes, then you probably go crit. And if they say no, then maybe Kins is better for killing tanks. I'm not sure. I feel like crit is usually pretty good for killing tanks too.
Sure.
Not really sure what the decision is behind that, but yeah.
The Jingwei here this time, we'll see what it is that Wowy chooses to try and make his build path have the maximum impact against the Splyce roster. I mean, we said that Obey doesn't have that much of a front line. They're relying on Athena, but potentially Splyce's could be a little bit weak too if Aror ends up falling behind. Game number 3, though, coming at you now.
Thank you, Finch and Zeros, and welcome, SMITE fans, into game number 3. Splyce looking for the clean sweep here today. Aggro joined by Toli as we head towards what is going to be a spicy one, because I thought for sure this was going to be Thanatos jungle, Thor solo, but it looks like Splyce has thrown us and potentially even Obey Alliance a curveball. Totally, the Thanatos solo made famous by Variety in Season 3 Worlds.
Oh, yeah.
Brought back here by SoloOrTroll.
During his Obey Alliance days, I love this. It was also more global pressure from him as opposed to the Ratatasker solo lane. So Thor, Thanatos, Ratatasker, I think all of those gods can honestly be played in the solo lane. Thanatos especially, because when you last hit the minions, you're getting health sustained. So it's not only the health chalice, it's not only the health potion, it's not only the warrior's blessing, it's the Thanatos passive.
Aror with the invade now as Weekend's already used one dash, and that speed buff secured by Weekend. The last auto went through right on time. That was close as he'll escape towards the mid lane. SoloOrTroll, I mean, we talked about his mechanical prowess and how that's a big part of what makes him successful earlier on in this set. I feel like Thanatos is a god that you can really show that off with. Matter of if you can get people into execute range early enough for him to make it work. Oftentimes is obey, do, stew away the red.
Well, you don't have to get people in execute range if your mid lane is fighting all the time, as you're just going to casually rotate over there and play cleanup crew. That hovering death is going to be available sooner than I think the level 5s of the other mid laners.
Certainly difficult to deal with as a mid laner, getting dunked on by 2 members. It's going to be Thor and Athena.
True.
Doing the dunk in here. Weaken hits level 2. That's probably going to be enough to chase Splyce off, and indeed it is. No taunt available for Mineral. He's only level 1. Aror does what he can, but now that buff means that everyone's hit level 2. Aror does get taunted back in, and that's a first blood for Obey Alliance. A bit of a weird decision there, Tole, I think, to stun Mineral using the dash.
Yeah, Venenu was clearly out. He was not wanting any piece of that. It seemed like the original call was from Splyce to disengage, but Aror was backpedaling while still looking at what was happening at the red buff, and he must have seen something to make himself want to go in there. But the way that Weaken was backpedaling himself to pull the red buff further away, it bought him enough time to get the slice and nice off for the last hit, baiting Aror in a really just unconventional spot. Very uncharacteristic for Aror to make these plays.
Weaken steals away 2 of 3. Cyclone loses the beads, and he's in a lot of trouble. Flickers up, and here comes Scream. Gonna have to try and make a play to get some space for CycloneSpin, and he does just that. Hammering in, gets some extra damage onto both Mineral and Wowy, and forces them back. Cyclone was in trouble there, to say the least, before Scream showed up. I kind of like this weird composition, though, from Obey. 2 gods we see next to nothing of in Nemesis and Agni, as Aror looks likely to take another spill early on. Moswal's dot gets it done. Just level 1 can't quite put that pressure on. So now that's 2 kills given over to Moswal. He's gotten both of them. And Venenu's probably like, come on, man.
I think he's setting up Venenu actually later on, so that when he gets the kill onto Moswal, he'll get more of a bounty.
Ah, smart
Honestly.
move.
No, real talk. Think about it this way. Season 3 days, what team was Aror on?
Aror was on Eager.
Who is known for the tactical feeding?
Zatman.
Exactly. So Zatman teaching Aror the great tactical mindset that you need to have. As level 1 Horus, not that big of a deal. But if you're giving solo farm to CycloneSpin and Venenu, that's a worthy trade. You're not really delaying Obeying Alliance enough, though, on the speed buff, especially when you're dying in like less than 5 seconds. So there needs to be a different thought process now coming from Aror.
I mean, in one way, he's been successful. Scream is ahead right now. He's level 4, whereas Weaken's only level 3. XP per minute, we've seen a lot of these invades, and I've kind of started to judge them as if you can get about 100 XP per minute ahead of your of your enemy jungler, then the support is doing the job. That's kind of the random benchmark that I've seen in a lot of these games. And we're not quite there, but we're close. So by that metric, Aurora's done pretty much what you want to do. Probably taken 1 too many deaths, but that's kind of to be expected with these weird starts, I think.
Yeah, between the Hercules and the Horus, this is something Aror is kind of known for, to make these early level 1 plays. But it's easier to do on Hercules because of the passive. You take damage, you deal more damage back, whereas Horus, not so much. You're only getting protections and a little bit of CCR and healing.
Mineral stunned and knocked up. Has to use beads there by his estimation, but I don't know if I agree. Mineral has gone for beads an awful lot so far these last 2 days.
Well, game 1, it made sense against the Cerberus, but I think
agree.
he got it at level 12, not at the level 1 marker.
And he was so impactful with those blink taunts last game, in the early game. I'm surprised that he didn't go for it here. It feels, I think that, you can let me know if you agree with this, Toli.
Sure.
Supports are too scared to die. I think in a lot of situations, your support dying is what has to happen in a team fight in order for it to go your way. I want them to use their CC on you, because then they're not using their CC on me.
You're missing a key word. Some supports
Yes.
are afraid to die. Aurora definitely not afraid, as he already has 2 deaths. But I kind of agree with you where your life is not as worth much compared to the others, right? So you blink in, you taunt, you set up your teammates, you die. At least you get 2 out of it. Maybe you'll trade 1 for 1, but maybe that'll create enough space for you to get a red buff or purple buff, any objective. And that's something that Mineral probably should have opted for, so he's going to try to go for Reinforced Shoes. So he's really sticking to the defensive side of things, where this is an aggressive comp from Splyce, mind you. Thor, Thanatos, the global pressure. Now, you get stunned by either of those global ultimates, Venenu, Spirit of the Nine Winds, might just one-shot you.
I agree, but I don't know. I mean, a lot, especially when the main CC for Splyce, the one that's going to be hitting the most often, is single target. It's Horus Fracture or Gust. You want them to hit you with it. You're kind of de-incentivizing Aror to use that ability on you, and by extension, making it more appealing to hit Moswal or Weaken or Wowy, and that's where you don't want those abilities to go. I think that's my main problem with it. Beads from Venenu as Minerals Dash Taunt does get the beads out, so no blink necessary in that moment.
I think also the thought process from Mineral is the composition from Obey's side. He's probably not wanting to go into enemy lines. He wants to sit in his own backline to protect Moswal and Wowy. Rely on this double assassin set Nemesis to go in, do the damage. If they need a Defender of Olympus, he'll kind of throw it out there. And that's why he's opted for a more defensive style.
CycloneSpin in trouble. He's been on the receiving end of the help that Nemesis ult usually provides, not this end. Mineral does get the kill, but set up by Weaken. Nice job staying out of combat for that blink as Ducky uses his ultimate on this right-hand side, forcing SoloOrTroll back. This matchup, I think, is one that could be pretty well in Thanatos' favor. Set kills you by slowing you, and slow immunity for Thanatos is a pretty big deal.
It kind of is. We're seeing Aror casually between tier 1, tier 2, as he normally does, and Thanatos will out-sustain Ducky's set every single time. You need to use Kingslayer to get sustained, you need to hit your Skewer with a Gladiator Shield, whereas SoloOrTroll, he death sives the wave, he's basically almost full health from that one ability, and then once he clears the wave, he's also going to get more sustained than a set can, so hard to really pinpoint and lock down the Thanatos in the solo lane without any jungle presence.
With that third assist, Weaken has been able to catch up a little bit to Scream in the XP department. Still down about 300 gold despite those assists. So the early game for Aror now pretty much irrelevant. The difference between the level 6 and level 7 support is really not important whatsoever. And Scream has a slight lead in the jungle. So mission accomplished by that estimation. That was a bit odd, though I guess it's not that weird. I mean, you'll see mid laners ult waves constantly. In order to clear them, Wowy just uses his airstrike to get back to purple.
Yeah. If he's expecting to get invaded, sure, why not? Honestly, you're better off saving it at this point, but maybe he's not expecting aggression, seeing how CycloneSpin's beads are still down, but you can still use that ability offensively. I'm very surprised he used it there. It might have been a misclick.
Could have been.
Where you used your 3 instead of, or you wanted to use your 3, instead you used your 4.
Certainly could have been the case. Quick pause coming through. We'll be sure to relay what's going on to you guys as soon as we can, as it looks like Obey is looking pretty clean right now. They're up 3-0 overall in this game, and I did just get word that this one should be a pretty short one. A keybind issue is what I was told, and I wonder if it was for that ultimate.
Could have been. I mean, it's when we're trying to make excuses for the player as to why they ultimate there when it clearly wasn't supposed to happen, keybinding issue makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, could be the case, as we'll get that resolved hopefully very quickly for you guys. Obey backs against the wall. Nemesis is the pick for Weekend. There's some sort of copy pasta that usually gets spammed in the chat whenever that happens. And I did see, funny enough, that the auto publisher for YouTube put out a Weekend video.
No
and the tag,
way.
It was a Nemesis video, and the tagline was, "I always carry on Nemesis."
Like, when did it go live?
Like in between games 1 and 2. I'm pretty sure.
Oh
it was
my God.
foreshadowing.
Calculated.
Yeah, foreshadowing right there for him, I suppose. We're back in game. Thanks for bearing with us, guys. I mean, Book of Thoth done for Ven. This is a good start for him in the mid lane, at least.
It has been, especially the last game as well, when he hasn't gotten pressure. The only people really dying is Aror, and then one unfortunate death for CycloneSpin. So I think Venenu is still in a comfortable position where he can stack comfortably. He's not under any pressure, and if he is, he just sits under tower, tornadoes the wave, gets the stacks, and this is why Splyce needs him in the backline. When you have aggressive players like SoloOrTroll, whether it's Thor, Thanatos, Scream making plays, you want your mid laner in the back.
SOT never gets off the ground. Ducky's burst damage on that skewer was preposterous. A good blink ultimate from Weaken. And I was just about to bring up the fact that SoloOrTroll has gone for the Transcendence. He goes pure damage on this Thanatos, and it shows in that burst. That's the worst feeling too, Tolly, as a solo laner. You just TP back in.
He definitely would have survived if he had any sort of defense. And not only that, his Warrior's Blessing is only at 13 stacks, so that means he's not getting that extra 15 physical, that extra 15 magical protections. That alone might have bought him some time to get into the air for Hovering Death.
Yeah, I mean, Nemesis Ultimate takes those, but it takes them anyways, so the more you have, it's still better against it. So yeah, I agree. That certainly could have played a factor right there. But he's back to lane quickly enough, but Ducky now with a noticeable lead in this lane. He's up. He's gonna be about 100 gold after this wave goes down. He's not gonna let go of the pressure, but this is where SOT can really take the fights. Look at that trade for the Thanatos.
And not getting the skewer poke in return. So yeah, even with 60 seconds for Ducky's teleport, he should be mindful about that poke damage, especially if you don't have enough clones to really look for that skewer poke. 10% CDR is nice to make it about a 6.3 second cooldown to look for that poke.
Scream taunted in the mid lane. No hammer for him yet. We'll just wall and then hammer away. Didn't use the beads. Look at where Aror is. Blinks in on that right-hand side. Hovering Death a little bit too early, but the Death Scythe is there. That's the strength of that ultimate, Totally. Don't need it for the execute. CycloneSpin going 1v1 up against Weaken, and Cyclone gets the better end. Level 11 making a difference there. A 2-level lead for CycloneSpin. Weaken takes a fight that he wasn't winning.
Yeah, he thought he was about to win that with using his Divine Judgment, but keep in mind, Bancroft's talent completed for a CycloneSpin. The lower he gets, the more damage he's dealing back.
Scream fires off that ultimate. Doesn't land, neither does Venenu's, but the CC still could be there. Death Scythe solid for SoloOrTroll, and the hammer even better from Scream. 3 kills now for Splyce, coming back to back to back to put themselves right back in parity with this one.
Remember, the mechanical god rotates and people just end up dying. SoloOrTroll, whether it's the Tyr, the Thor, the Thanatos, he's making these rotations. He's making Obey really pay, and that took a little bit of time, granted, for Splyce to get the kill, but they're now able to extend that lead even further.
Right back in parity with this one. Ducky taking that spill on the right-hand side is a great beginning, I think, for Splyce, as another set of beads comes out for a frontliner here for Obey. Ducky feeling like he needs those moments of CC immunity, and I can't disagree with him. It's going to be a problem if he doesn't have it, but that means that you've got, at most, 1 teamfight relic on your composition, assuming that Weaken also goes beads.
Yeah, I'm expecting maybe a blink from Mineral, so even then, now you have no team fighting relics, right? Like, no Shell, no Frenzy. That's going to be a little problematic now, as Obey Alliance needs to figure that out.
SoloOrTroll on the receiving end once again. Death Scythe gets a big heal off, but again, he can't get off the ground. Ducky's been really patient with these skewers in order to get maximum value out of them. SoloOrTroll did everything he could. I think he lives if he just ults right away, doesn't let Ducky get those sand clones up. I'll ask you in a minute. Wowy on trouble on this left-hand side. CycloneSpin flickers away from that taunt. Wowy does dash in because Scream is caught in a bit of a weird position, but still has the hammer, so he's okay. You think SoloOrTroll, if he slams ult right away, lives?
It depends. If the skewer was used earlier, then yes, he lives.
Venenu early Aegis, and Moswal with the solo kill in the mid lane, but Wowy just able to get that airstrike off. Mineral still in a bad spot, but Weaken on the way. No blink or ultimate for him. It Scream's low on mana. CycloneSpin about half HP. Those two split up, trying to get it working as Ducky finds a 2v1 kill over in the solo lane. Mineral is able to taunt him back in, but a huge stun from Weaken. Make sure Mineral goes down, and Weaken's gonna go right there with him. A brawl in every single lane. Mid, right, left. There's death everywhere.
Yeah, slightly miscalculated from Obey. Like, yes, there was a kill on the right side from Ducky, but trading a level 14 solo laner for a level 10 support, not the play you generally want to do. That feels kind of like a confidence ego play out of Ducky, which is not normally something he's known for. And then on the left side, something that Weaken is known for is forcing a lot of aggressive plays. In that 2v2, they were really trying to isolate onto CycloneSpin, but the problem was that when you're fighting in this 2v2 versus Scream's door, he has 20 extra power from his passive. So even if you do kill CycloneSpin, you're probably not getting out before Scream kills you and cleans you up.
So a bit of a brawl everywhere right now, as we've had a lot of kills already. 13 kills in just 14 minutes in this contest. And I think that's kind of what happens when you've got the damaged Thanatos over there in the short lane. There's going to be a little bit of extra action. Penetration now done in the form of that Jotun's Wrath. That means with the max Scent of Death, SoloOrTroll is basically capped on pen already. Flat pen at least. Can still go for a Titan's Bane if he so chooses. As Scream is kind of taking the role of frontline, it looks like he's building into a little bit of defense.
That makes sense. When you have a Glass Cannon Soul Lane or Thanatos, you want to cover that defense somewhere else. SoloOrTroll this time will instantly Hovering Death, respects the Kingslayer.
As soon as you miss the Scythe, you get out of there. As F.Dot says, miss the one, you better run. Scream landed the one, but still had to get out of there quickly. Good aggressive dash in by Moswal, understanding that he had numbers in his advantage.
Yeah, and respecting the CC that was about to occur all the way without use of beads, still down for 50 seconds. Scream knew the only way out was with that Anvil of Dawn. So SOT and Scream, despite being known for making offensive plays, knows and understands when it's time to ult out.
SoloOrTroll in trouble again, but a huge shield from Aror is actually going to turn it around. SoloOrTroll stays up, and Aror puts Weaken down. That is craziness that Aror is able to get there in time with that To the Skies ultimate to knock back Weaken and Mineral and provide the shield. How did he know that was going to happen?
There must have been wards under there. I'm looking at it. Maybe it just fizzled away. Splyce able to confirm this objective on top with Venenu's ultimate, but Aror read Weaken like a book, it felt like. That's a long ultimate to channel as well. It takes something like 3-4 seconds to land once you're in the sky.
SoloOrTroll doesn't hit the Scythe on the Ducky, but still a lot of damage and sustain with those cleave autos. Ducky uses the blink and the beads, but he has to get away. SoloOrTroll doesn't have the Scythe anymore, just use it. Kingslayer goes up, and here comes Mineral, not enough damage in order to get it done, and Ducky gonna disengage. Weaken's on the way and has his blink up and ready to go, but it seems like a little bit too far for him to chase. I brought up the slow immunity in the lane matchup for Ducky up against Thanatos, and Thanatos' Scent of Death getting rid of those slows, but it's also excellent against Weaken's Nemesis.
That's very true. It's able to negate the effectiveness of it. If he really wants to, he can even purchase the Wing Blade as a secondary option to avoid that ultimate in case the Scent of Death is no longer available, but that could also be something that Aror picks up as he starts to that Ancient Blade.
Wouldn't be surprised to see Aror get a sprint either.
It's a Relic Dagger.
All right, so it is a Frenzy. Aror sticking with it. And when you've got this much objective damage, I think that Frenzy's still a pretty good pickup, man. I mean, you've got a Spear of the Magus Merlin. He's going to Dragon Fire the Fire Giant. Venenu's going to Whirlwind it. And then they're going to ult it. And it's going to be dead with an upgraded Frenzy. Ducky able to escape that stun, but still has to find a way out. Scream starts channeling the ultimate. CycloneSpin has made the rotation as Obey is here in numbers. They just got the Pyromancer. Venenu, the only one not present. Stun not there for Aror, so that means SoloOrTroll and Scream disengage, but that's a big commit onto Aror when he still had the Protector Surge up and available. Splyce with a good disengage. Couple ultimates traded, 2 for 2 on ults, and 0 for 0 on kills.
But Obey got the Pyromancer during all that, so it's a good way to at least get an objective, not allow Splyce to control that right side of the map, and now that Splyce has the vision, they're going to advance as all 5 members, even CycloneSpin, is around the corner.
Mineral poke. Scream going to commit in. Remember, he has no ultimate, so that's a full commit from him. Had to use the Purification Beads instantly. Weaken, no blink, but still lurking. Venenu eats one bomb and has to use the Aegis, and Ducky going to go in right away. That ultimate from Ven doesn't get it. In fact, he's walled off by Scream, and Moswal takes full advantage. Big taunt coming in from Moswal, brings in 2 members of Splyce, and they might get flattened right here. Ducky going to try and keep the chase going, but it's going to be a skewer through the back that kills Scream. Double kill for the solo lane set. And Obey Alliance at double digits in kills might be looking for the big FG.
They know where SoloOrTroll is, right? They have to. Under there is going to be a ward right behind. It's going down relatively quickly at half health already. SoloOrTroll does get identified. It delays Obey, even blinking away, but look where CycloneSpin is. He's on the north side. I think these side laners could pincer maneuver here.
SoloOrTroll up. No one's going to be in execute range for this, but here comes CycloneSpin. Fire Giant down to about 25%. Lands on top of Mineral. Death Scythe is there. Cyclone's damage is enough to get it done, and Obey Alliance do confirm the Fire Giant with bombs from Moswal. Support and jungler go down, but FG still stands on 3 members.
CycloneSpin still wants a little bit more. He understands how low Ducky and Wowy are. I don't think he knows where Moswal is necessarily, so has to respect this level 17 Agni, but I think that CycloneSpin took too long to assist in the matters. He could have definitely bought more time. If he does a little bit more damage, somebody goes into execute range, and then SoloOrTroll cleans up. Instead, CycloneSpin was trying to play cleanup crew instead.
Yeah, I think that those two players, very, very well known for their ability to come in and clean up team fights, and maybe that works against them in that moment. I mean, if SoloOrTroll is able to get that execute, he gets a big heal.
Oh, yeah.
He gets cooldowns back. Now, his cooldowns were all up, so that part doesn't matter as much, but I understand your reasoning for sure. Either way, Obey do get away with the objective. That's the moral of the story here, and it's on the backliners, the members who are going to do the most damage. Ducky, as a frontliner, will appreciate the regen, but he won't hate the power either. This set has been doing quite a bit of it.
Kingslayer is going to be even more powerful now if Obey continue to be aggressive. There's 4 more towers remaining, 5,000 gold if Obey wants to group up. Having a little bit of a lead now, but I don't know how they really siege into Venenu on the Kukulkan, right? Like, you're going to have to split push every single wave. Like, you can't only do a 5 split push group on one middle lane because Kukulkan on Venenu is just going to cover that option.
Tier 1 tower, a little bit too weak, I think, for Splyce to defend. 500 gold, not really worth their time. Venenu will just make sure the wave doesn't get to stick around for too much longer. So if sieging is the problem, I think Oni Fury is a good answer because it gets you some golden XP and puts pressure on the waves where you are not. I think this is exactly what the Doctor ordered for Obey Alliance. Scream has got into split push mode. He's got a couple people here. Meets up with Weaken. Immediately going to use the ultimate just to disengage. But look at the rotation. He might go in right here. He was looking for it, but a bit off the mark. Hovering Death started. They're going to try and chase out Weaken. That's Purification beats. Hovering Death lands. Sight is right there. Aror removes Weaken from the team fight. It's Ducky now on the run. The entirety of Splyce. They don't have the Fire Giant, remember. They're chasing into it, and the Death Scythe misses, and SoloOrTroll goes down. Now the response coming from Obey. CycloneSpin left for dead as Venenu and Scream start working on this tier 2 tower. This is a full commit to try and get it. Scream hammers right into Moswal's range. Aegis is pretty solid as tier 2 does fall, but Venenu doesn't seem likely to survive.
I don't see how he gets out of this one, but the tornado will be ignored, but there was a little bit of a hesitation from Obey Alliance. Wowy gets in there, the taunt from middle, good enough to clean up Venenu. 3 dead Splyce members for only Weaken and a tier 2 tower.
I mean, you could see the pieces being put together. It was close there for Splyce to going really well, but I kind of agree with your assessment, man. I mean, if Venenu's so good on the defensive, Kukulkan is at his best when he's losing, why force that engagement?
Maybe they thought Obey wasn't as grouped up as they really are, but when a team has Fire Giant, even if it is on 3 out of 5, you have to assume that they are going to rally the troops. They are going to focus out one particular side of the map, but Splyce, sometimes known for their aggression, didn't respect that possibility.
They probably assumed, like I did, that Oni Fury was the call for Obey Alliance,
Sure.
and we're hoping that they were going to be far away. But even then, Mineral has the ultimate. He can rejoin very quickly. Cute idea by Splyce, but execution doesn't go their way. And with this Oni Fury, that pushes this lead to almost 4K now for Obey Alliance. 4,000 gold at 22 minutes. Not huge by any stretch. I'd say this is on the bottom end of noticeable. You're just starting to get the, they've got more ward coverage than we have. You know, they've got a couple more items complete instead of sitting at tier 2. But it's not a huge deal, I don't think, as Aror scouting, thinking about it, couple pings coming through. No one's coming with him. This is a solo journey for Aror, and he will end up joining up on the defense.
Obey no longer with Fire Giants, so Splyce has an easier time defending, but Aror out of position.
As the dash is enough.
Wow.
He's got 2 of them, remember, and here goes Scream up into the air, looking for a grouped Obey Alliance, and he finds 2 right away. Weaken, where did he go? Moswal, no beads. There's the dunk from SoloOrTroll, the dunk squad coming in, and SoloOrTroll is going to clean it up with the Soul Reap, and now Obey has to get on the run. They do have a lot of mobility. A wall is solid, gets the beads. Wowy eats the Death Scythe, and here comes Aror. Great CC chain. Wowy never gets the airstrike off. Mineral dead to rights. SoloOrTroll notches number 14 for Splyce. And boy, that is one way to defend against a Fire Giant push. 4 for nothing, and Splyce didn't break a sweat.
Wow, Splyce had a blueprint, and that time the building was constructed, really punishing the aggressive style, trying to kill Aror there. He barely gets out, and even if they do kill Aror, I think still Obey Alliance were going to be forced to retreat because of the turnaround plays. This double global pressure from SOT and Scream. What a way to start off the fight. Scream forcing out the beads, the early burst damage potential there. I believe Weekend was the first casualty of war.
Yep.
Moswal got cleaned up by SoloOrTroll. The chase down was so easy, it felt like, from Splyce because of their mobility. Scent of Death, the hammer teleport, Venenu slither, the dashes from Aror. Like, how are you going to get away from Splyce?
Man, that at some point though, I think you just have to give credit to Scream because that was a hell of a dunk that he found.
Two.
I mean, as soon as you see a Thor go up, and I don't know that Obey had that information, but us as casters, I mean, I'm looking for grouped up members, where he's going to be looking. And even looking for grouped up members, I didn't see that Weekend and Moswal were that close to one another, that it was possible to double dunk them. But Scream's able to thread the needle with a great play and really turns the game around for Splyce. And that's what makes teams go from good to great, is the ability to have one player make an individual play just like that.
It almost felt like those were two players that were two planets kind of orbiting around the solar system, and there was a slight eclipse for a short amount of time.
Once in a generation.
And then boom, there it goes. Catching the eclipse at full view with Scream.
So now we're back to even. Splyce have the momentum after that last fight, and a slight relic advantage as Wowy beats a little bit later. Pyromancer's going to go down, but Scream's now in trouble as he committed that hammer. Mineral correctly taunts him in and forces out those purification beads. Weekend pushing in the mid lane right now is just trying to get a little bit of pressure towards that tier 2, which is already pretty weak.
Left side is also unattended, so those minions might do a little bit of damage to that tier 2 tower. Looks like there's a couple of archers shooting it to its heart's content, and I'm expecting Splyce now to feel more confident to continue those plays. This game, Splyce was on the back foot for the majority of it, but they're not playing like they're on the back foot. They're playing like they have a 10,000 gold lead.
It's that confidence that comes with being the defending world champs for Aror and CycloneSpin, and oh yeah, Scream and Venenu,
Season 4.
also world champions. So the last 2 years, 4 of these Splyce members have lifted Mjolnir, so looking to do it again here in season number 6. And they look like a favorite to do so.
Can you imagine if the 5th member that they had was like a team rival member?
Yeah, exactly. Just someone who's been there the last few years in the finals.
Take them under their wing.
Show them how it's done. You know, how to close it out. Wow, look at this. A huge commit right away. Frenzy popped. That Kukulkan ultimate early, but it doesn't matter. Splyce still get the Fire Giant. And this is what was Splyce's calling card early on in this season, was the ability to just burn these objectives really, really quickly. Obey Alliance don't really get caught sleeping or napping. They blinked, and that objective was gone.
Frenzy's a good relic, especially upgraded. Aror really helps his team make plays either PvP or through the objectives in the PvEs. It's going to be easy now for Splyce to siege. We were talking about the defense with Venenu on the Kukulkan, but now what about the offensive?
It's a little bit more difficult for Kukulkan. I mean, he really wants the wave to come to him the majority of the time, but those ultimates still have game-changing potential every single time. And with Merlin damage there to supplement, it's going to be pretty difficult for Obey Alliance. A little surprised at the lack of dedicated magical defense here for Ducky. I mean, Oni's is a great item. Runic Shield as well, I like both of those, but I'm a little bit concerned that those two together won't be enough to withstand all of this magical damage.
It might be because the passive to reduce the enemy's magical power by 50, as long as he's in range to apply that passive aura, it's good. But if he's not in range and he gets hit by Spirit of the Nine Winds, then that 50 magical power is not reduced, and all of a sudden Venenu might one-shot you.
Scream hammers in and gets the Magi. That was risky, though, because he had no beads. Mineral, I think, goes on the aggressive there.
Aror.
That could be a problem.
Looking for it. On the left side, Phoenix.
Here comes the dunk squad. Scream actually going to launch from that point, so he's got the entire map available to him from here. SoloOrTroll whiffs, but gets the beads anyways. And there's the dunk coming from Scream. I wasn't sure which dunk member it was. They've got so many. Scream does clean up Moswal, as that left side Phoenix now in trouble. No damage to it yet. Remember, no ADC here for Splyce, but still, they've got one member off the board, and it's the Mage.
And without the Agni Bombs, this is going to be a dive out of Splyce.
Spirit of the Nine Winds doesn't land, but that's okay. Venenu's still able to put out some damage. Aror tanking effectively as Weekend dies to the dot from the Whirlwind. Who needs the ult? Ducky takes a big chunk of damage from the Zephyr at the same time. Left side Phoenix getting lower, but Scream has full committed to this, and they won't get it. Just not enough objective damage quite yet. No poly coming from Venenu as a sick knockup from Wowy brings Aror back to Phoenix range. Phoenix still stands, but Splyce still here.
Scream wanted to force it really badly, and it almost worked out. Finally, Splyce do get the left side Phoenix. Middle dash is in, though.
Find the taunt onto Venenu. Still had beat. CycloneSpin turns on the blowtorch, and Aror gonna make sure Mineral goes down. Wowy takes a whole lot of damage, and here comes SoloOrTroll, but no way he catches him before he gets in there. Instead, he's looking for Moswal. Welcome back to the map, buddy. You're down once more. 18 for Splyce. And they have a chance at the Phoenix or the Titan, but decide against it. A couple members coming up. In fact, Weekend on the respawn. Little surprised, but they don't have any minions totally, nothing to tank.
Yeah, there's no way they were going to get that Titan, especially with a tier 2 tower in the mid. Right side Phoenix still stands as well. Obey, I think, know about this. There's a ward right there.
They have the info.
Oh, but it's a Splyce ward, actually.
Splyce had that warded, but Weekend just opened the eyes and took a look. No one's looking towards the mid lane. Splyce was looking to make a play with that to the skies ultimate, but ends up not happening. I got a little bit crossed up. I can only imagine what happened to Moswal on that Phoenix dive. That's where those 2 dunks come in huge.
There's so many dunks. Aror on the Horus. Then SoloOrTroll Thanatos hovering depth. Scream decided to play cleanup once there was no beads onto Moswal. And then, once Moswal revives, another hovering death right on top of him. That was probably intended for Wowy, but despite being in execute range, the better target was Moswal. I don't think he had the range to connect on the Jing.
The story of yesterday's set up against rival for Obey is Moswal gets Merlin or Thoth. They look like a great team. They're able to make a lot of stuff happen. As soon as he lost those picks, it really changed the course of that game, and I think that is really reverberated here today. This Agni selection, I mean, the early Merlin pick by Splyce, the Thoth ban, Obey wait until the second phase, then Hera and Poseidon get banned away. And he's left with this Agni, and it has not been effective quite yet, only above the tanks and player damage.
At least in the late game, it hasn't been too effective, and I think that's a result of all the global pressure that Splyce has. I don't think any mage is going to be effective against triple globals like Splyce is currently running. Hard to get away from, even with an Agni dash. So I don't necessarily mind the Agni pick. I just think that Obey's early advantage didn't allow the Agni to flourish.
Weekend gonna bait himself here, and Scream might not be able to help himself. He's looking for it. He's going to drop a ward and realize that's the entirety of Obey, not just Weekend there clearing that wave as Fire Giant started. Frenzy is up for Aror, but looks like they can hold on to that. No one here from Obey Alliance ready to contest, and another Fire Giant goes Splyce's way. This one, of course, is enhanced.
And SOT was kind of also being another one of those lookouts on the watchtower from the mid lane. Sees everyone from Obey down the mid lane, so guaranteed objective there. Enhanced Fire Giant now for Splyce, as they don't have to worry about the left side, but Obey might have to, as there's going to be fire minions trickling down that lane.
They don't have a wave in mid. I mean, that is pushed all the way to the Phoenix, so that's a pretty big deal. It's going to be difficult for the typical 4-1 split to work. But with these semi-globals, sometimes you'll see players push the far side Phoenix so that they can really spread out the opposition. Aror gonna go up. To the skies he goes. He'd only bring Solo if Solo decides to come, and he will not. It's Aror alone. Taunt immune by the Magi's. Now Aror joins back in, but look at the Phoenix. It's already nearly gone. Polynomicon doing work here for Venenu, and up goes SoloOrTroll. Ducky in a little bit of trouble, but it's Wowy who he dunks on immediately. Has to use the Aegis, but he removes SoloOrTroll for getting in his face. Ducky goes down as the double dunk happens once again. Scream puts up number 20 for Splyce as they begin their Titan siege. Taunt doesn't do a whole lot there for Mineral, and Splyce walking into the throne room.
2 minion waves got down on the left. Frenzy being popped by Aror. Splyce 3-0.
They get the job done. They get the 3-0 victory here up against Obey Alliance as Splyce get one step closer towards that second seed. With that goal in mind, I would expect to see them continue in the next week playing at this high level.
Now at this point, if you're Obey Alliance, despite losing 3-0, there's a lot to take from this set, right? Like the way you were able to get a certain lead in games number 2 and 3, but you couldn't really close it out towards the late game. I think that the split push in game number 2, when you allow too much to happen from CycloneSpin's set, should not have happened in the first place. But they reacted very well, I want to say, to Splyce's aggression. They didn't kind of get run over.
Yeah, I mean, Obey did some things well, but I was still a little bit concerned for this team going into placements. We see the high end there available to them. But for me, I think the picks and bans need some work. They clearly have good game plans and they can sit down and plan it out beforehand. Their game 1 drafts have been good in every single set, I think. It's games 2, 3, 4, 5. Their ability to adjust on the fly, I think, is a bit of a concern for me.
But it looks like they're all still friends at the end of the day. All smiles and laughs after that one. So I still have high hopes for Obey during placements because of their ability to take out Rival in that best of 5s, or not the whole set, but like take 2 games. It's a team that you have to respect. You can't be too loosey-goosey against them.
Splyce, pretty good week for them. 6-0 here in the second to last week of the SPL. Let's get it back over to John Finch and Zeros on the desk so that they can break it down.
Thanks, Aggro. Thanks, Anatoly, as well. Splyce do indeed claim this one 3-0. But I don't know if you'd really be able to tell how close, especially that last game was, just by looking at that scoreline. Obey had them a bit on the ropes in that one and just couldn't close it out. I'm still joined here on the desk by Zeros. And man, that game looked like it was going to be Obey's for a while, but Splyce with that big play in that long lane where they chased them down, really able to turn things around.
Yeah, for sure. Obey was also a really good start as well. They had a good lead, but
yeah,
it's just something that goes wrong. Like, whenever team fight start, it just seems like Splyce just has so much more experience. They're just better at team fight, and like they just come out ahead.
You're right. I mean, and it's small things, right? It's like target selections. Like this play here where Obey, you know, I think correctly identified that 2v2 favored them, but Scream using the Thor passive well, that wall to slow them off. It's just small things in this, in multiple team fights that compound, and Splyce end up winning.
And clutch plays like this as well.
This is sick, yeah.
3-man Horus out to save the Thanatos and get a kill in return. Just so good.
Yeah, SoloOrTroll should be dead there by all intents and purposes. And they don't steal the Fire Giant here, but Splyce on this contest do find 2 kills. CycloneSpin goes in first. SOT is there to follow up on that Thanatos, and they are able to do enough damage to where this is only on 3 members, and Obey are kind of on the back foot, even with an FG.
I wouldn't say back foot there, though. Like, but it's just like, I thought that maybe Obey could actually do it there and maybe pull through and like maybe get a good siege going, but like, it's so hard as well, right? Imagine being a carry and play against triple dunk. I think there was one time at the right Phoenix Siege for Splyce. All Thanatos, Thor, and Horus all went up into the air at the same time. And like, how do you juke all these dunks as a carry? Like,
and then how do you keep fighting on the ground when you're trying to juke those things? It just forced them into such bad spots on the side of Obey, where they had to make multiple decisions stacked on top of each other on what to concede and what to try and go for. And it must be so difficult in those moments to communicate effectively, to make the right decision time after time after time. And Splyce just kind of kept putting them in those decisions. I mean, that's the reason why they came out on top, I think, is that they just kind of put Obey in a spot where eventually they couldn't make the right call.
Yeah, for sure. But then again, I think for Obey, if they know 3 people are going up to there, that's literally all their front line.
Right,
all that's left on the ground is the Kukulkan and the Merlin.
Right.
Just dive them. I feel like that Set and the Nemesis, surely they just go hard on the enemy backline, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's certainly a viable option there for him,
Yeah.
But then again, you know, do those picks do them a service in that game, right? They are kind of taking, what, an Agni in that spot, a Nemesis, a picks you don't see that much of. I think they played well. Do you think the draft held them back, or do you think that it was more execution for this one?
I think the draft worked way better than I thought it would, actually. Like, the Agni pick especially, I really liked. He was off to a really good start. He had a solo kill on Venenu. I think he probably outperformed Venenu this game on the Agni, but like...
I think so, too.
It's just some weird plays from Weekend as well. Like, he goes to try to one-on-one Cyclone at the backcam at one point, gets soloed. Like, he was ahead of Scream as well. He lose momentum there. Like, it's these small things that doesn't make them like be able to keep as good control of the game as they probably should.
That's right. Obey, it feels like sometimes kind of have to win it all at once if they're going to be the ones that come away with that victory. Instead, Splyce, a veteran team, are able to shut them out here 3-0 and put a bit of a capper on the end of Obey's season here at this point. But we do have Splyce, the victors that are standing by. Let's hear a little bit from Scream and Venenu about that set.
All right, thanks guys for joining us after a big 3-0 victory over Obey. First things first, Ven, Kukulkan, this is before the buff. You know that, right? Why Kukulkan now? What makes you think he's a good pick right now?
I mean, he kind of just does everything that you need. He has burst, he has secure, damage output always, and it always has follow-up. So he's just like an overall strong character now.
For you, Scream, you playing the Bastet, kind of more Season 4 nostalgia to your E-United days with Venenu, or is there more to it than that?
Well, I'm just kind of the best player at Bastet ever, so it's like I just kind of whip it out when I need to. And they were banning me out, so I was like, I'll just pick Bastet, it's whatever, you know.
Are you looking forward to the eventual Bastet ban? Like, it's going to happen. You're going to have to say something about it. Like, that's going to be the
Yeah,
thing, right?
I mean, at Worlds, like, if they ban it, I mean, that's easy for me, right? And if they don't ban it, then it's going to be easy for me again, so.
Wait, that means that it's always easy for you.
Yeah.
That's what. Oh my goodness, that is difficult to deal with. I mean, you guys look difficult to deal with as a squad right now. It seems like you're really synergizing together. What was the biggest thing as we kind of came out of Mid-Season Invitational? What has been the biggest turning point for you as a team to get to where you're playing right now?
In my opinion, it's mainly, I think my confidence levels being on the team longer have mainly just risen. Like, I think that for the first split and for Mid-Season Invitational specifically, I was like kind of limiting my god pool in itself. And I think that I'm kind of showing that I can play more stuff now, and I'm a lot more confident in my play in general. And I think that my team is also a lot more confident around each other a lot more as well.
It's been a lot of fun to watch, guys. Getting close to that second seed. You got a game next week as well. How confident are you that you'll get to that top end?
Man, that's an easy dub for us, 3-0 for sure.
There it is. It's been 3-0 the last 2 days. Congratulations, guys. We'll see you next week to close out your season.
Thank you very much.